Chapter 12:11. Whistling sounds echoed throughout the world as the cold wind howled like a giant dragon sweeping across the land. In front of Yongkai was a vast expanse of white snow that stretched for countless kilometers. Frost trees stood tall and the mountains rose and fell like ice dragons. The temperature here was much lower than in the snow domain. In such a place, if an ordinary transcendent late-stage cultivator were to enter, they would not be able to last long without sufficient external assistance. Palm-sized snowflakes drifted down from the snow-white sky. Each snowflake contained an astonishing amount of coldness and power, falling down like a goose feather dancing in the wind. The trajectory of the snowflakes was light, agile, and unpredictable. A snowflake fell towards Chenzong's body, but Chenzong did not dodge, allowing it to land on his shoulder, his expression changing slightly. This palm-sized snowflake actually contained a force of several thousand kilograms, and this force contained an astonishing chill. The impact of several thousand kilograms was nothing to Chenzong's tyrannical physique, unable to even harm a single hair on his body. The chill that could freeze a late-stage transcendent realm cultivator was also no threat to Chenzong. However, Chenzong was surprised by the strength of this snowflake. Very strong. One had to know that normal snowflakes had no weight at all, but the snowflakes here actually contained a force of several thousand kilograms, thousands of times more terrifying than snowflakes in the outside world. If this snowflake was so terrifying, then what about the rest? Chenzong looked down at the ground below. The ground was covered in snow, so he lifted his foot and stomped down, using 70% of his strength. With a bang, the snow on the ground was sent flying as a terrifying force swept out, blasting open a pit several meters in diameter. All the snow within a few meters was shaken off, revealing the solid ground beneath. Solid, incomparably solid, Chenzong could feel a terrifying force rushing towards the sole of his foot, as if it was trying to shatter it. The terrifying chill mixed with this force and covered the sole of Chenzong's foot, quickly spreading towards his calf at an astonishing speed. Pung. Chenzong's calf muscles trembled, bursting out with an extremely tyrannical force, shattering the frost covering his foot and shattering the force of the shock. Looking at the solid ground, it was actually intact. This hardness was at least twice as high as the outside world. Raising his head, Chenzong's eyes swept across the area in front of him. There are 36 entrances to the flying snow-sealed world. Once you find the entrance and activate it, you can pass through and obtain the opportunity to enter the Saint Realm, Chenzong secretly said. However, to activate the entrances to the flying snow-sealed world, they needed the snow crystals from the flying snow-sealed world. Therefore, there were two things that needed to be done to enter the flying snow-sealed world. The first was to hunt for snow beasts and obtain snow crystals. The second was to find the entrance to the secret realm. However, there was still a question. How many snow crystals would be needed to activate the door to the secret plane? Strength. Luck. That's right, in order to obtain the opportunity to become a saint after entering the flying snow mystery realm, not only did one need to be strong enough, one also needed to be lucky enough. When one first entered, he would usually be like a headless fly. Chenzong's soul consciousness spread out and instantly covered all directions. He suddenly felt that his soul consciousness was restricted and could not be as relaxed as it was in the outside world. He could even feel a deep-seated chill that was constantly spreading. Even his soul consciousness was affected, as if it was about to be frozen. The solid ground and the shocking chill not only affected his body and chi, but also his soul and mind. Such an environment could be said to be terrible. Chenzong also realized that spreading out his soul consciousness consumed a lot of energy and was obviously affected. It was better to use his eyes, so he simply shrunk his soul consciousness and only covered 100 meters around him. With a range of 100 meters, Chenzong would be able to sense all movements within 100 meters of himself. Although it was not as far as his eyes, it was more comprehensive. If he encountered a sudden attack, he could discover it as soon as possible and react. 100 meters. It was not much of a distance, but if Chen Zong could sense it first, he could react in an instant. Of course, if Chen Zong could not react in time, it meant that he could not fight back. It would be the same whether he covered it with his soul consciousness or not. Chen Zong's shoulders shook slightly as if there was a pair of invisible wings flapping. An invisible storm rolled up and pushed his body forward quickly. He was fast and light, agile and unpredictable. The flying snow-sealed realm was remodeled by the supreme experts of various sects. It was very spacious inside, but not many people could enter. Therefore, it was not easy to encounter each other. About half an hour later, Chen Zong saw a snow beast. The snow beast was snow-white and looked like an ape. It was about 5 meters tall. This snow ape in the sealed realm looked the same as the snow apes in the snow region. However, if one looked closely, they would notice the difference. The fur of the snow ape in the sealed realm faintly glowed with white brilliance. The brilliance connected and formed a faint halo. Its eyes were white and filled with white light, like white gemstones. Between its eyebrows there was a red crystal stone. The crystal stone was perfectly round and was in a regular octagonal shape. It was about the size of a strong man's palm. This snow ape in the sealed realm also noticed Chen Zong. Its white gem-like eyes flashed with a trace of blazing light. Then, it jumped dozens of meters high. Its strong body drew a stunning and violent arc in the air and fell like a meteorite with earth-shattering power. Boom! The momentum was shocking. An extremely violent and overbearing aura locked onto Chen Zong. The sky shook, and an extremely terrifying pressure seemed to be able to shatter the heavens and the earth. The snow ape raised its right arm, and a white light burst out from its right fist. It turned into a torrential flame and suddenly struck down. Boom! It was as if a meteor had pierced through the sky. Not only was it astonishingly fast, but it also contained an extremely terrifying penetrative force. Countless ripples swept out, shattering all the accumulated snow within several hundred meters. Chen Zong narrowed his eyes. Although this snow ape in the sealed realm was not as powerful as the one in the outside world, it was not much weaker than the Snow Wolf King. Strong. Very strong. He did not expect to encounter such a powerful snow beast as soon as he entered the flying snow secret realm. Then, the red octagonal crystal on its forehead must be the so-called snow crystal. Then, let's kill it and get the crystal. He flicked his left thumb and a powerful force burst out, enough to shatter a hill. The heavy dragon sword, which weighed 98,000 kilograms, shot out in an instant. A jet of black flowing light pierced through the sky with a shocking sword chi. It pierced through the void and attacked the fist strength. The fist strength was snow-white and could shatter the mountain and the earth. The jet-black sword chi was shattered by the fist strength in an instant. However, this sword chi was not powerful enough. It was just the sword chi that came with the unsheathed heavy dragon sword. Chen Zong stretched out his right hand and suddenly grabbed forward. His slender and white fingers, which were like those of a musical grandmaster, burst out with a shocking power. He grabbed the hilt of the heavy dragon's sword as if he could crush a mountain with one hand. There seemed to be a trembling sound in the void. The sword's sound, which was like the sound of a heavenly drum, surged out and rolled up a shocking storm. Chen Zong bent his body slightly forward and exerted force in his feet. It was as if he was going to crush the solid ice ground. Layers of ripples burst out from his feet and spread out in all directions. Crack! A cracking sound was heard. With Chen Zong's feet as the center, cracks appeared and spread out rapidly like a spider web. The solid ice was indeed shockingly hard. However, it was unable to withstand Chen Zong's real power. He waved the heavy dragon sword and made a terrifying sound like a tsunami. The sound of the sword whistling in all directions was earth-shattering. A jet-black crescent moon sword light, which looked like it was made of divine gold, tore the sky apart and slashed out. Chen Zong had exerted all of his power in this sword attack. The crescent moon sword light pierced through the air and attacked the fist strength of the snow ape. At the same time, Chen Zong's feet exerted force for the second time. With a boom, the sword hilt under his feet collapsed and spread out inch by inch, forming two pits that were several meters deep. Chen Zong's body shot up into the sky as a result of the recoil. Like a lightning bolt or an aurora, the heavy dragon sword shattered the vacuum and rushed towards the sky with a terrifying pressure. Under the sword, the snow ape's body seemed to be slightly stunned. That was actually an illusion. It was an illusion caused by the space around the snow ape being suppressed in an instant. It also showed the power of Chen Zong's sword attack. Heart-sinking sword. This sword attack was to exert the weight of the heavy dragon sword to the extreme. It was so heavy that it could crush everything. It made people feel powerless in the face of such a terrifying and heavy power. Cut. The heavy dragon sword and the snow ape's fist collided. Both of them paused for a moment, and the space around them seemed to have frozen. In the next second, extremely terrifying ripples exploded from the point of collision. The shock wave swept across the sky, and the shocking explosion shattered everything. The space in that area was shaken, as if it was about to be shattered. Chen Zong could feel the horrifying power of the snow ape, which was even more powerful than he had imagined. That fist was as heavy as a mountain and as explosive as a thunderbolt, as if it was about to shatter his arm. There was also a horrifying ice-cold power that spread out rapidly, passing through the body of the heavy dragon's sword and heading straight for him. Chen Zong's body stiffened, as if he was about to be frozen by that ice-cold power. His powerful qi and blood shook, and then the purple cloud-black star flame swept out, shattering the ice-cold power in an instant. That fist attack from the snow ape had made Chen Zong feel extremely uncomfortable, and that sword attack from Chen Zong had also made the snow ape feel extremely uncomfortable. Its entire body was thrown into the air by the powerful force. The white light on its fist was shattered, and a sword mark appeared on its fist. It was so deep that it seemed to have cut the fist into pieces. After landing on the ground, Chen Zong suddenly took in a deep breath. Like a whale sucking in water, he sucked in all the air within a few thousand meters. His chest suddenly expanded, as if there was an extremely horrifying power that was about to explode. Boom! The power exploded once again. Chen Zong's feet exerted force, and a hole that was more than 10 meters deep collapsed. Chen Zong's entire body shot up into the sky like a giant crossbow. Like a shooting star, the heavy dragon sword was thrown out again. Heart-sinking sword. This sword attack carried an extremely horrifying power, and once again it was thrown out. Under this sword attack, the sword pressure seemed to have shattered the sky once again. The snow ape could not fly, and since it was in the air, it had lost its footing, so it could only fall from the sky. It was barely able to explode its power, which was also very powerful. It was enough to defeat Chen Zong half a year ago, but not now. Chapter 12:12. Disemboweled. Blood gushed out like a fountain. The mysterious realm's snow ape's body was strong, but it still couldn't withstand the sharpness of Chen Zong's heavy dragon sword. Not only was the heavy dragon sword incredibly heavy, it was also incredibly sharp. Kill. Chen Zong swung his sword again. The pitch-black light was like a bolt of lightning that could split heaven and earth. The sword slashed down from above, and the terrifying sword pressure broke open the ice on the ground. The mysterious realm snow ape's neck was instantly cut off. The crimson blood was like a fountain that had been compressed to the extreme, and it sprayed out dozens of meters into the air. What a rich blood essence! Chen Zong couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If the blood refinement technique worked, he could refine this blood essence into a blood bead and absorb it, which would further strengthen his blood essence and improve his body refinement realm. With the next swing of his sword, Chen Zong dug out the octagon-shaped red snow crystal. The snow crystal felt heavy in his hand, as if it weighed over 10,000 pounds. However, Chunzong wasn't surprised. There were too many mysteries in the world of cultivation. It was rare for a palm-sized crystal to weigh over 10,000 pounds, but it didn't mean it didn't exist. Not only was this red crystal heavy, but it also contained an incredibly hot aura. It was as if a sea of fire had been compressed into it, which surprised Chunzong. The flying snow secret realm was extremely cold, and the mysterious realm snow beasts also had incredible ice power. However, the snow crystals on their bodies were extremely hot, which was the complete opposite. With a flip of his hand, Chunzong put this piece of snow crystal into his storage ring. He continued to hunt for snow beasts while looking for the entrance to the mysterious realm. Chunzong didn't know what the entrance to the mysterious realm looked like. Sometimes he could only rely on luck. And even if he did find the entrance to the mysterious realm, how many snow crystals would be needed to open it was another question. After about 15 minutes, Chunzong found the second mysterious realm snow beast. It was a mysterious realm snow python. Its body was 1 meter in diameter. It looked extremely large and powerful, and its speed was extremely fast. It was like a winding lightning bolt that tore through the earth and charged towards Chunzong. When the snow python approached to a certain distance, it suddenly opened its bloody mouth, but it did not bite Chunzong directly. Instead, a cloud of snow mist condensed and rotated in the depths of its mouth. With a boom, the snow python spat out a cloud of snow mist. It was as swift as a shooting star and as ferocious as a tsunami. As the snow python breathed out, a chill spread out in an instant. Frost froze everything, and the falling snowflakes were also frozen into solid ice in an instant. They mixed into the snow python's breath, causing the breath to become even more powerful. Chunzong only felt that his vision was filled with white breath, and the world seemed to be falling. Chop! The heavy dragon sword was unsheathed and slashed out. The pitch-black sword light produced heat due to the friction with the air, bursting forth with an astonishing blazing star fire. Immediately, the surrounding snowflakes were incinerated and melted. Sizzling sounds rang out incessantly. It was extremely intense, as if a red-hot soldering iron had been dropped into an ice-cold spring water. White smoke billowed out like dragons and snakes rolling over and over like clouds and rain. Not only was the snow python's breath cold enough to freeze everything, but it also contained an astonishing force of impact. It was like an erupting mountain flood, destroying everything in its path. With a boom, the purple cloud-black star flames spread out and covered the heavy dragon sword. It burned fiercely, causing the power of Chunzong's sword to increase dramatically. He slashed out. After the sword split open the snow python's breath, it heavily slashed the snow python's forehead. The frightening sword chi mixed with the purple cloud-black star flame's terrifying heat caused the snow python to roll over and roar in pain. It madly counterattacked, and the frightening power destroyed everything in its path. But not long after, the snow python's struggle gradually weakened, and it died. As soon as it died, the snow crystal on its forehead was dug out by Chunzong. It was a hexagonal, fiery red snow crystal. It was also very heavy and contained an astonishing amount of heat. Different shapes. Chunzong stared at the hexagonal snow crystal in his hand, and could not help but think. Previously, he had obtained an octagonal one, but now he had a hexagonal one. Could it be related to the strength of the snow beast? Indeed, this snow python felt a bit weaker than the snow ape. If the shape of the snow crystal was related to the strength of the snow beast, then what kind of snow crystal would be needed to find and open the door? Or any kind of snow crystal? New questions popped up in Chunzong's mind. But before he found the door to the secret realm, he could not be sure. In the outside world, many figures were approaching. They rushed into the flying snow secret realm without hesitation and entered the flying snow secret realm. 3 days had finally passed. The whirlpool-like door to the flying snow secret realm quickly froze and turned into a piece of solid ice. It looked like a huge ice mirror standing between two ice mountains. What is going on? Open. The two geniuses who had just arrived were slightly startled. They both had a bad feeling, but they did not want to admit it. They immediately unleashed their powerful powers and attacked. Boom, boom, boom. Two powerful attacks directly landed on the frozen door to the flying snow secret realm. However, they were unable to break it. Instead, they exploded on their own like two lonely fireworks. There was no effect. The two of them were infuriated and attacked continuously. Their attacks were like torrential torrents, and they bombarded the door of the flying snow secret realm. However, they all exploded and dispersed like smoke. They were unable to damage the door at all. More people arrived. When they saw the frozen door and the two geniuses who were attacking, their hearts sank. They missed it. If they missed it, they would not be able to enter the flying snow secret realm and participate in the second stage of the competition. They were one step too slow. Just one step too slow, and they missed out on a great opportunity. All of them were filled with regret. Although they might not be able to obtain the opportunity to become a saint even if they entered the flying snow secret realm, there was still some hope. In the end, they all missed the opportunity to become a saint. However, they could not blame anyone. After all, they were competing on the same starting line. If others could enter the flying snow secret realm within the specified time, it was a skill. If they could not reach the flying snow secret realm within the specified time, it was also a skill. If they were to attribute it to bad luck, the cloud chi was also a skill. A total of 118 people have entered the flying snow secret realm. In the sky, a supreme expert smiled and said, "Such a number was within everyone's expectations." As for those who had reached the end of the snow region but could not enter the flying snow secret realm, they would not reopen the door to let them in. If they missed it, they missed it. Opportunities were always like this. A total of 118 people entered the flying snow secret realm. They started to hunt snow beasts and the door to the secret realm. Out of the 118 people, more than 10 of them were the supreme talents in the first group. Most of the geniuses in the second group had also entered the flying snow secret realm. There were even fewer geniuses in the third group. As for the fourth group, none of them entered. Yun Yenshin also stepped into the flying snow secret realm and instantly felt the shocking chill. Fu Yunxiao also entered the flying snow secret realm. Gao Hongjing and Bai Xie also entered the flying snow secret realm. There were exactly 5 people from White Cloud Mountain who entered the flying snow secret realm. Of course, this did not mean that 5 disciples from White Cloud Mountain could obtain the 36th spot. It was possible that none of them could obtain the spots. After all, if they were unlucky and did not find the door to the flying snow secret realm, they would really miss it. There was also a time limit in the flying snow secret realm. It was much more relaxed than the first stage. It was a month. If they could not find the door to the flying snow secret realm within a month, they would also lose the opportunity to enter the saint realm. On the third day, Chen Zong killed the 9th snow beast and obtained the 9th snow crystal. Interestingly, the 9 snow crystals were all different in appearance except for their color. This directly broke Chen Zong's previous guesses about the strength of the snow beast. One was octagonal, one was hexagonal, one was triangular, one was circular, one was quadrangular, one was oval, one was prismatic, one was circular, and one was square. However, Chen Zong still had not found the door to the flying snow secret realm. Of course, there were no clear rules about what the door to the flying snow secret realm looked like. It could be one way or another. Without seeing it, no one could be sure. Chen Zong's soul sense had been covering an area of 100 meters around him. He could clearly see any movement that might occur. His eyes were extremely sharp. He scanned the front, left, and right side. He also paid attention to the area above him from the corner of his eyes. If there were any flying snow beasts, Chernzong would be able to detect them as soon as possible. That's... Chernzong's expression changed slightly. He quickly turned to look to the right. About 100 meters away, there was a huge stone with a very strange appearance. Chernzong only discovered this stone when he covered it with his soul sense. Upon closer inspection, the stone was more than 10 meters high. It seemed that a part of it had been cut off by a sharp blade. The slope was very flat. On the edge of the flat slope, there were holes of similar sizes. The holes were all different in shape. Some were circular, some were triangular, and some were polygonal. What really caught Chernzong's attention were the holes of similar or different shapes. Without any pretense, Chernzong's figure appeared in front of the flat, sloping surface. He stared at it and immediately took out a hexagonal snow crystal and gently placed it on the hexagonal hole. It fit perfectly, as if it had been cut from the top, if not for the fact that the color was different. The door to the flying snow secret realm. Chernzong's eyes sparkled. He tried them one by one. Indeed, every shape was very compatible. Chernzong was 90% sure that this was the door to the flying snow secret realm. Sometimes it was so wonderful. You tried so hard to find it, but you suddenly found it when you looked back. 2 octagons, 4 hexagons, 2 circles, 6 prisms. Chernzong glanced over and clearly saw the number and shape of the snow crystals needed. Finally, his eyes fell on the hole in the center. It was a more complicated shape. A snowflake shape. It was not the shape of snowflakes falling from the sky, but a very regular snowflake shape. In other words, he had to gather so many snow crystals to activate the door to the flying snow secret realm. Although he did not have enough snow crystals on hand, he already had a goal in mind. Next, he would be able to target the snow beasts to obtain snow crystals. Another point was naturally to do it as soon as possible to prevent others from activating this secret plane door first. Chapter 12-13. The sky of the flying snow secret realm was white and boundless, as if it was covered by a large amount of snow. An astonishing chill was constantly spreading out and descending upon the earth. The ground was covered with snow, and under the snow was solid ice, which was also emitting an astonishing chill. The sky was cold and the earth was frozen. The world seemed to have turned into an ice prison, causing the people in it to be constantly attacked by the chill. Snowflakes drifted down, and the cold wind blew, causing the snowflakes to be sometimes slow and sometimes fast. When it was slow, it was as light as a feather, and when it was fast, it was as sharp as a blade. Roar! An astonishing roar rang out, and a violent wind blew wantonly. The fishy wind blew, and the power was vigorous and violent. The sharp claws flashed with an astonishing cold light in the air, tearing the sky apart. The snowflakes did not have time to react, and were torn apart by the sharp claws, and then shattered by the terrifying power. Yunyenshin's delicate face looked serious, and her eyes flashed. Her long sword vibrated, repelling the air, and the speed of the sword reached the extreme. The green sword light carried a misty halo, and a dreamy feeling spread out in all directions. The sword light tore through everything, and attacked with an invincible force. An ear-piercing sound rang out, as if countless metals were colliding, and the air was shattered. The surrounding snowflakes paused, as if they were frozen in the air. In the next moment, from a microscopic point of view, the snowflakes began to crumble from the edges, turning into powder. With the sword in her hand, she was as fast as the wind, as fierce as the storm, and as sharp as the wind. Kill, kill, kill. The misty green sword light transformed into countless illusions, and all of them attacked the sharp claws, shattering the cold light of the sharp claws, and turning into an astonishing hurricane of destruction. However, the owner of the sharp claws was also very strong. With a strong physique, strength, and astonishing chill, he resisted Yunyenshin's sword and fought fiercely. The claw light tore through the air, and as the light twisted and flickered, it appeared in front of Yun Yenshin, as if ignoring the distance between them. In the next moment, the terrifying power of the claw would tear Yun Yenshin's delicate face apart. Yun Yenshin's pupils contracted in an instant, but he didn't panic in the face of danger. The misty green sword light seemed to have broken through time and space and appeared in front of him, blocking the attack of the sharp claws. With a turn of the sword light, the sharp sword broke apart the sharp claws. The extremely sharp sword cut along the thick arm under the sharp claws, leaving a long straight mark in the sky. Chi-la! This sword slashed open the other party's chest, leaving behind a sword wound, blood gushing out. Roar, roar, roar! The concealed realm snow lion was enraged. Like a trapped beast, an even more powerful aura gushed out from its body, freezing the surrounding snowflakes in midair. Immediately after, the snow lion opened its mouth and spat out a thick snow-white light beam. That light beam was like a ray of light that split the heavens and earth apart, shattering everything. It was obviously extremely cold and froze the surroundings, but the friction with the air produced an astonishing amount of heat, burning everything. Ice and fire intertwined, cold and hot blended. This attack was also very sudden, out of Yun Yenshin's expectations. It directly pierced through Yun Yenshin's body, shattering it into pieces. However, Yun Yenshin reacted in an instant. He dodged at an extremely high speed, shattering the afterimage he left behind. Wind chant. With a light shout, Yun Yenshin's sword finger brushed across the blade of the sword. The misty green sword light quickly spread out, as if a cool breeze was blowing. The wind was singing in a low voice, with a strange rhythm. Fluctuations spread out in all directions, as if there were countless wind spirits singing. Traces of green spread out in the void, like veins spreading all over the place, like a big net covering the sky. Every trace of the wind was singing in a low voice, and the rhythm seemed to come from the depths of the void. The sword light slashed down in this unique rhythm. The green sword mark seemed to split the heavens and earth in half. There seemed to be the sound of a sharp blade piercing through a body, followed by the sound of a sharp blade cutting through hard bones. This sword pierced through the snow lion's body from the back. The terrifying sword chi swept through the snow lion's body like a storm, strangling everything. The snow lion was severely injured and roared in grief. It struggled madly to counterattack, but Yun Yenshin's figure appeared in the sky, completely avoiding all of the snow lion's dying counterattacks. After 3 breaths, the snow lion's body, which had been destroyed by the sword chi, trembled. Its limbs straightened and became stiff, and dark red blood flowed out from its mouth, nose, eyes, and ears. It also emitted traces of sharpness and lightness. That was Yun Yenshin's wind sword chi. After killing the snow lion, Yun Yenshin let out a sigh of relief. This snow lion was very strong. If it was half a year ago, he would not be its opponent at all. However, after half a year of cultivation, his cultivation had increased significantly, and his strength had also improved significantly. Even so, he had used 100% of his strength to kill this snow lion. Even the weakest snow beast in this flying snow secret realm had the strength of the top 10 in the White Cloud Mountain outer sect half a year ago. With a flick of the thin green sword, the snow crystal on the snow lion's forehead immediately fell into his hand. This was a crescent-shaped snow crystal. It was completely red and extremely pure. Yun Yenshin smiled. Although he had not found the door to the secret realm, it was good to have a snow crystal. With a thought, the crescent-shaped snow crystal disappeared and was stored in his storage ring. Glancing at the snow lion's corpse, Yun Yenshin's figure moved through the falling snowflakes. He turned into a gust of wind and floated forward. Suddenly, a purplish-black blade light tore through the sky. The blade light was like a purplish-black thunderbolt, carrying with it an extremely violent and destructive aura. It seemed to have come from the void. The friction between the blade light and the air caused an astonishing burst of flames. The intertwining of thunder and fire made the power of this blade even more terrifying. The terrifying blade pressure instantly split open the snow and the ice under the snow. The blade light continued forward with an irresistible force, as if it was going to tear apart everything in its path. Yunyenshin's face suddenly changed. This blade light appeared very suddenly and was completely within his expectations. In fact, Yunyenshin was not mentally prepared at all. The blade light was extremely terrifying, and the aura it exuded made Yunyenshin's scalp tingle. Pushing his speed to the extreme, Yunyenshin's figure became even faster. Even if he was not a Saint Realm master, he seemed to have gained the ability to fly in an instant. Of course, this was not true flight. Instead, it was a kind of use of the wind force. It was a display of extreme speed and lightness. When the attacker realized that his attack had failed, he no longer hid. In an instant, his saber aura multiplied, and a terrifying aura exploded. After the purple-black thunder and fire intertwined with the saber light, a terrifying force that could topple mountains and overturn seas condensed into thousands of saber chi that covered a radius of 1,000 meters. Boom! 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 Every blade chi burst out with astonishing power, as if it could cut the void into pieces. The terrifying blade pressure suppressed and solidified the impact within a kilometer radius. Yunyenshin's figure seemed to be imprisoned. He paused for a moment, and the terrifying blade light slashed through the air. This blade light was filled with killing intent. This blade light was capable of destroying life. It was fine if he did not use his blade, but once he did, he wanted to kill Yunyenshin right there and then. Boom! A green light shot into the sky and rushed out of Yunyenshin's body like a green flame burning the sky. In fact, it was not a flame, but a kind of energy that was compressed and attached to the surface of his body. It was like a flame in the wind. Wind chant. It was like a gentle breeze, but also like a howling gale or a roaring hurricane. The green sword chi emitted by this sword was more than twice as powerful as when he killed the snow lion. It was an explosion that surpassed the limit. As he slashed out with his sword, the sword chi followed, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. The sword chi and the blade chi collided continuously, bursting out countless sparks. The green sword chi was like a gentle breeze, a strong gale and a strong gale. When the sword chi and the blade chi collided, Yunyenshin's expression suddenly changed. He felt an extremely terrifying and irresistible force of destruction coming at him. The green sword chi shattered inch by inch, and the astonishing force even destroyed the green flames on Yunyenshin's body. With a bang, Yunyenshin flew back rapidly. His face was pale, and the long sword in his hand was vibrating non-stop. Crack! Purple-black lightning tore through the sky in an instant and appeared directly above Yunyenshin. A figure wearing purple-black soft armor also appeared. This person had a mocking killing intent on the corner of his mouth. His eyes were ferocious, and his killing intent was blazing. He raised his hands high, and terrifying lightning burst out from his long blade, destroying everything. Senior Sister Yunyenshin, die. The person slashed down with his blade, and an astonishing beast-like roar came from the depths of his throat. The killing intent was earth-shattering. Yunyenshin saw the figure that suddenly appeared in the sky. Her beautiful eyes suddenly widened, and her pupils instantly shrank to the size of needles. This person was obviously beyond Yunyenshin's expectations. Slash. The figure in the sky slashed down with his blade. This slash was extremely violent, and it was like a thunderbolt that could destroy heaven and earth. Yunyenshin only saw purple-black lightning in front of her eyes, and the whole sky seemed to be collapsing and turning dark. The sky fell and the earth cracked. The sky turned dark. Yunyenshin gathered all the strength in her body and swung her sword. Boom! A storm swept up into the sky and blasted towards the extremely terrifying slash. The blade and the sword collided in an instant, and the two extremely tyrannical forces bombarded each other. The surroundings froze in an instant and then shattered. It was as if a level 18 tsunami had exploded and swept through the world. The snowflakes within a radius of a few thousand meters all froze, and then collapsed into powder and disappeared into the air. Terrifying destructive ripples swept out from the point of collision again, and it was filled with an astonishing explosive power that could destroy mountains and split the earth. Boom, boom, boom. The energy exploded, and the figure in the sky couldn't help but fly up. Yunyenshin's graceful body suddenly trembled violently, as if she was constantly being bombarded by lightning. Her face was pale, and she spat out a large mouthful of blood. Her entire body fell from the sky like a meteor. Boom! In an instant, Yunyenshin's body fell 100 meters, and heavily smashed into the snow. In an instant, the snow was smashed away, and then the ice was broken, and she fell under the solid ice. Rumbling sounds continued to be heard, and the ground shook incessantly. This continued for a full 10 breaths of time before it stopped. The figure in the sky stared down at the human-shaped hole in the solid ice. His eyes flashed with purple-black lightning, as if he could see through everything and see Yunyenshin in the hole. Immediately, a ferocious and threatening murderous intent appeared at the corner of his mouth. Slash! The purple-black lightning on the long blade was extremely blazing. It suddenly exploded, and slashed down again and again. Chapter 12-14. The snow-white sky was dyed with purplish-black light, shining in all directions as if the sky was collapsing. Slash! 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 Every slash used 100% of his strength, and the purplish-black lightning on every slash was extremely terrifying. Every slash left a stunning slash mark in the void. 3 slashes in a row. These 3 slashes were aimed at the same spot in the crater, slashing towards the figure in the crater. Sheathing the blade, the lightning dissipated, and the sky became clear. A huge crater that was dozens of meters wide appeared on the snow-white ground, and there were cracks all around. It was a shocking sight. The snow-white ground of the flying snow secret realm was extremely hard, much harder than the outside world. It was more than 10 times harder to create a crater that was dozens of meters wide. He should be dead. The figure in the sky looked down from above, and his eyes flashed with purplish-black lightning as he stared at the depths of the crater, as if he wanted to see through it. He muttered to himself, and there was a sense of relief in his tone. Finally, he killed Yunyenshin, and he didn't have to worry about this anymore. However, I need to see him alive and dead. Only then can I feel more at ease. The person muttered to himself again, and his body fell rapidly. He couldn't fly in the air in the first place, and the short period of time he was suspended in the air was caused by the tyrannical force when he slashed out with his blade. Now that he had sheathed his blade, he couldn't maintain the suspended state anymore. As his body fell, his left hand grabbed the air, and purplish-black lightning flashed continuously and quickly gathered, like a lightning dragon reaching out its claws to grab a piece of land. Whoosh! The purplish-black light shone brightly, illuminating the entire space, making it incomparably bright. The light flickered. The lightning claw grabbed into the crater, but it suddenly shook, as if it was directly hit by a tyrannical force, and instantly shattered. The expression of the owner of the lightning claw changed greatly, and his body turned into a purplish-black lightning as he retreated rapidly without any hesitation. The moment the figure retreated, he left behind countless afterimages. A beam of green aurora light with incomparable agility and sharpness pierced through the solid ice and shot out, shattering all the afterimages. In the next moment, an extremely sharp and resounding cry resounded out, and it pierced through the clouds and shattered the seas. It resounded through the 9 heavens while an indescribably noble and profound aura effused out along with it. A green light soared into the sky. One could vaguely see the shadow of a green flying bird. There were 3 feathers on the top of the bird's head that were extremely soft and fluttering in the wind. Its wings seemed to be burning with a layer of misty green flames, but it wasn't flames. Just looking at it would cause one's mind to sway, and one's will would be disturbed and become erratic. His eyes narrowed, and purplish-black lightning flickered and leaped. He instantly broke free from this influence, but his heart was still filled with terror. What kind of power was this? The cyan bird phantom soared into the sky. There were 6 cyan feathers on its tail. Each of them was straight and hard, emitting an astonishingly sharp aura like a sharp sword. The cyan bird phantom soared several hundred meters into the sky, as if it was going to tear the clouds apart. Then, it paused and let out a resounding cry, tearing the world apart. Her graceful and elegant body made a turn in the air, drawing a perfect and swift trajectory as she dove down. As fast as an aurora, it rushed into the hole in the blink of an eye. The icy ground suddenly trembled as cracks spread out. From the cracks, streaks of green light shot out like swords. Boom! An astonishing green light soared into the sky like lava from a volcanic eruption. It was as if a green sun was shining in all directions. The extremely astonishing energy fluctuations caused the person who had retreated several thousand meters away to have an incomparably solemn expression. What kind of power is this? The person's face was solemn, and he was extremely unwilling. He had clearly struck Yunyenshin. He had clearly killed her with 3 swift slashes. She had no chance of survival. How could she burst out with such astonishing power? Could it be that the person had been replaced? In the next moment, as the cyan flames continued to gush out, a figure quickly floated up from the hole. It was Yunyenshin. At this time, Yunyenshin's eyes were filled with cyan light. Her long black hair was also dyed with 3 layers of cyan light, as if it was fluttering in the wind. 3 feet above the ground. At this moment, Yunyenshin's body was dyed with cyan light. The light seemed very intense, but it wasn't dazzling at all. Her body seemed to have lost all weight as she floated. It was almost like she was flying. Luijue, you deserve to die. A fierce voice full of killing intent came out from Yunyenshin's mouth. It carried an accent that could pierce through gold and split stone. It made Luijue's heart unconsciously tremble, as if he was hit by an invisible force. Bloodline. Luijue's face became extremely ugly. You actually awakened your bloodline. After entering the 5-Ju Heavenly Palace, Luijue's talent was stimulated to a greater extent. He cultivated more advanced cultivation methods and martial arts, and cultivated in a better environment. His cultivation base and strength had increased by leaps and bounds. His knowledge had also increased with the increase in strength. Therefore, Luijue judged that Yunyenshin had awakened his bloodline power. Whether he had already awakened his bloodline power before or after being attacked by him, Luijue didn't know, but he was very shocked. Once a cultivator awakened their bloodline power, their strength would be significantly enhanced. If it was a low-level bloodline awakened, the enhancement effect would be relatively ordinary. If it was a mid-level bloodline awakened, the enhancement effect would be quite obvious. If it was a high-level bloodline awakened, the enhancement effect would be very shocking. Luijue didn't know what bloodline Yunyenshin had awakened, but he felt that it shouldn't be a low-level bloodline. After all, the phenomenon triggered by a low-level bloodline wasn't so obvious. Jealousy. Luijue was very jealous. He was jealous that Yunyenshin had awakened his bloodline power, but he hadn't. If he could also awaken his bloodline power, his talent would be further enhanced, and his strength would be further enhanced. As he was thinking, a green light suddenly flashed in front of him. Fast, extremely fast. Almost at the instant when the green light flashed, an astonishingly sharp killing intent had already pierced through the void. It gave Luijue a feeling that his whole body was penetrated. His spirit and willpower were also slightly affected, like a flame being blown by the wind, instantly swaying. Fortunately, Luijue's spirit and willpower was very strong. He immediately got rid of this influence and slashed out. Purple-black thunderbolts densely lingered on the long saber. The saber vibrated as if it was about to shatter the void, and the saber slashed out fiercely. The speed of the thunderbolt was extremely fast, and the power was even more violent. But in an instant the purple-black thunderbolt exploded, and the long saber jumped high as if it was about to fly out of his hand. The misty green sword light with a trace of distorted silk-like arc light arrived in front of Luigi. It was incomparably dazzling and dazzling. At the moment of crisis, Luigi's hair stood on end. His subconscious, which had been torn between life and death many times, broke out. The saber cut across the void and blocked the sword. With a clink, the tip of the sword stabbed the saber. The terrifying sharpness and power impacted the saber, causing the saber to hit Luigi's chest like a door plank. The tyrannical power caused Luigi to quickly retreat. His chi and blood surged, and his spiritual power shook. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. But what made Luigi even more horrified was that a terrifying evil intent passed through the saber like a storm and directly rushed into his sea of consciousness, rushing toward his spirit and willpower. Like a roaring hurricane, Luigi's spirit and willpower were shaken in an instant, and he was in a trance for a moment. In a trance, the second sword light shook the saber away and drove straight in. After all, Luigi had also broken through many life and death situations. His subconscious was extraordinary, and he instantly made the best response. But he was still a bit slow. His shoulder was directly penetrated by the misty green sword light, and the terrifying evil intent once again rushed toward his spirit and willpower. Luigi crushed a purple thunderball, and the blazing thunder quickly wrapped his body. He turned into a purple thunderbolt and fled away at an amazing speed. In the blink of an eye, he had leaped thousands of meters away. In another blink of an eye, he had leaped tens of thousands of meters away. He was so fast that by the time Yunyenshin reacted, it was already too late to catch up. When Luigi's figure disappeared, the misty green halo around Yunyenshin seemed to be restrained. Yunyenshin's body also fell out of thin air. The moment his feet touched the ground, he seemed to have lost all his strength and fell to the ground. His consciousness was clear, but his body seemed to have been drained of all his strength. He was limp and couldn't muster any strength. If Luigi returned at this time, or if some snow beast appeared, Yunyenshin's life would be in danger. Fortunately, this limp and powerlessness was only temporary. A new force was constantly diffusing from the deepest part of Yunyenshin's body. It was the power from his bloodline, and it was rapidly restoring his strength. 10% was restored in one breath. After 10 breaths, Yunyenshin's strength was completely restored to the previous peak, but that was only the previous peak. 11 breaths. His strength had increased by 10% from the original limit. 12 breaths. His strength had increased by 20% from the original limit. 13 breaths. 14 breaths. 15 breaths. 16 breaths. 17 breaths. 20 breaths. Yunyenshin's strength was no longer increasing. Even so, Yunyenshin felt that his strength had increased by 10% out of thin air. His strength had soared a lot in just 20 breaths. It wasn't over yet. Yunyenshin felt that the changes in his body were still continuing. This time, it wasn't a change in strength, but a change in the extraordinary force. As the extraordinary force finished changing, a trace of consciousness appeared out of thin air. It seemed to spread out from the deepest part of his bloodline, pouring into his knowledge sea and into his soul. It was absorbed and controlled by Yunyenshin. A quarter of an hour later, Yunyenshin got up. He felt that his body was becoming lighter and more agile, as if he could fly in the air with a light leap, like the wind and the clouds. I didn't expect my bloodline power to awaken so quickly. Yunyenshin smiled slightly. When she was still in White Cloud Mountain, she coincidentally showed signs of awakening her bloodline power, but it still took a lot of time for it to truly awaken. Maybe 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. She didn't expect that she would suddenly be attacked by Luigi. She was seriously injured and was almost killed. The crisis of death actually stimulated her bloodline power and completely awakened it. As soon as it awakened, it gave Yu Nianxin a powerful strength, injuring Lu Yijue. If Lu Yijue didn't have a life-saving artifact, he would have died here. Chapter 12-15. It was still covered in white snow, and there were still endless icebergs. Chen Zong leaped up and down, looking for suitable snow beasts to kill. I've gathered all the other snow crystals. Only the snowflake-shaped snow crystals are left. Chen Zong's bright eyes scanned the surroundings, looking for snow beasts with snowflake-shaped snow crystals. However, this kind of snow beast seemed to be very rare. It had been 7 days, but Chen Zong still hadn't found any. In this flying snow secret realm, there were actually no other things except snow beasts. The 8th day passed, and the 9th day passed. During this time, Chen Zong also met 3 people from other sect forces, but there was no conflict between them. On the 10th day, Chen Zong was delighted, because an ice dragon appeared in front of him. The ice dragon was about 100 meters long. It was entrenched on an ice hill, and it seemed to be in deep sleep. Chen Zong's eyes glowed as he stared at the ice dragon's forehead. There was a fiery red crystal the size of 3 palms, which looked like a complicated snowflake. A snowflake-shaped snow crystal. Finding the snowflake-shaped snow crystal that he had been looking for several days, Chen Zong was overjoyed, but he didn't get carried away. Instead, he became calmer. Because that snow beast was an ice dragon. Since ancient times, no matter which secret realm it was in, dragon-shaped creatures were usually very powerful, much more powerful than other demon beasts of the same level. Moreover, this ice dragon was about 100 meters long, and its sleeping body emitted a terrifying pressure, which made Chen Zong feel threatened. Very powerful. This was a very powerful snow beast. Chen Zong hesitated for a while, then made a prompt decision to attack. A snowflake-shaped snow crystal was very rare, and Chen Zong had only found 1 secret realm gate. If he wanted to activate it, he needed a snowflake-shaped snow crystal. Now that it was in front of him, he couldn't miss it. Chen Zong took a deep breath. Like a whale sucking in water, all the aura within a radius of several thousand meters was absorbed by him. His chest heaved up and down as if it was about to explode, and a powerful force exploded. The heavy dragon sword turned into a black aurora and shot out. 100% of his spiritual power and 100% of his body-refining dragon power instantly merged and poured into his right arm. 3 kinds of extraordinary power, the 9th level sword power, the 8th level 8 cloud power, and the 8th level flame power, also poured into the heavy dragon sword. The 9th level purple-black star flames power also poured into the heavy dragon sword. This sword condensed all of Chen Zong's strength. While the ice dragon was still asleep, he attacked with all his strength, trying to kill the ice dragon. At the very least, he wanted to heavily injure the ice dragon, greatly weakening its strength so that it would be easier to kill it and obtain the snow crystal. Chen Zong's control was incomparably astonishing. Even though he had unleashed all of his power, his might was incomparably tyrannical and astonishing. However, he had sealed all of his aura within the heavy dragon sword, and not the slightest bit of it leaked out. Deep sword. The deep sword was the most suitable for such an attack. Because the deep sword was a basic sword technique, it was a combination of 2 kinds of power. The deep sword was a sword technique that carried the power of heaven. It was powerful, and it carried the power of heaven. After all, the power didn't completely belong to Chen Zong's body, so it couldn't be completely restrained. Chen Zong wasn't strong enough to completely control the power of heaven. Once he used it, he would be discovered by the ice dragon. The heartless sword was erratic. Although it could restrain its aura, it could subconsciously follow the opponent's flaws and attack. The sleeping ice dragon had flaws everywhere, so there was no need for this. The deep sword technique was powerful and domineering, and its destructive power was number one. At this time, the deep sword was the best choice. Snow beasts could only be taken by killing them. If they were alive, they couldn't take the snow crystal. Therefore, Chernzong aimed his sword at the ice dragon's neck. The ice dragon's head was one of the hardest parts. It was difficult to break it, but the neck was easier. Just as the deep sword approached the ice dragon's neck, the ice dragon lifted its eyelids. Cold light shot out from its huge, cold, and emotionless eyes, instantly locking onto Chernzong. Chernzong's heart skipped a beat. He was still discovered. In an instant, the ice dragon woke up and realized that it was in danger. It roared angrily. Terrifying sound waves rolled and exploded. With extreme cold, it swept in all directions and froze everything around it. The frost quickly covered Chernzong's eyes. The ice dragon lifted one of its front claws. The light from the claws filled the void, leaving stunning scratches. It was as if it had broken through the boundary of time and space. It rushed toward Chernzong with extreme cold and murderous intent. Its tail shook in an instant, rolling up a snowstorm that swept toward Chernzong as if it was going to shatter an iceberg. The terrifying power that could topple mountains and overturn seas was so powerful that it shattered everything. It was too fast. The speed at which the ice dragon had woken up and counterattacked was too fast. This reaction speed shocked Chernzong. Moreover, the ice dragon's counterattack was not so simple. It launched 3 counterattacks almost at the same time, forming a 3-sided pincer attack. Each of them was extremely terrifying. Facing the ice dragon's counterattack, Chernzong's face darkened slightly. His eyes were dignified. There was no fear on his face, and he had no intention of retreating. With a boom, an extremely terrifying force suddenly erupted from the heavy dragon sword, causing the might of the sword to increase by another 30%. The power was completely restrained in the sword in order to better kill the ice dragon. Its power was somewhat weakened, but now that the ice dragon had discovered it and launched a shocking counterattack, Chernzong did not need to restrain his power anymore. He completely released it, and its power increased by 30%. It was even more terrifying. The astonishing weight of the heavy dragon sword released a frightening pressure, causing the space under the sword to shatter, forming an invisible funnel shape that was extremely sharp. Kill! The sword instantly struck the ice dragon's neck, and a cracking sound suddenly rang out. Pieces of ice shattered, and the astonishing black chi continued to explode, shattering the ice into ice shards. The ice around the ice dragon's body also shattered, and cracks also appeared on the small hill below it. The purple cloud black star flame's terrifying heat kept burning, making the ice dragon feel uncomfortable. After all, the ice dragon was a demonic beast of the ice element. Its entire body was cold, and it was naturally hostile to fire. Moreover, the 9th-grade purple cloud black star flame's power was extremely terrifying. The damage it caused to the ice dragon was also very shocking, making it feel extremely uncomfortable. In the blink of an eye, as if a long time had passed, the ice dragon's icy breath swept out like a raging wave. The ice dragon's claws tore through the sky, leaving behind a few sparkling and translucent scratches. The ice dragon's huge tail carried the terrifying might of a thunderbolt as it smashed down. No matter how strong Chernzong was, he could not withstand such an attack. If he was hit, even if he did not die, he would be seriously injured and lose his ability to fight. The heavy heart sword arrived. It carried the mysteries of the refinement cloud path, and its power was unleashed to the extreme. Break! Before the dark red blood could spurt out, it was burned and evaporated by the terrifying heat of the purple cloud black star flame. Chernzong's shoulders shook imperceptibly. His body was like a floating cloud. His steps were as light as water and smoke, and he moved forward and backward like the wind. Countless illusions overlapped, and it was difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake. The cold breath covered the surroundings in a flash, and a thick layer of frost condensed. The huge ice dragon's claws tore through the air and smashed the illusions into pieces. Deep claw marks were torn open on the solid ice ground. The huge tail carried the shocking power of breaking the sky and smashed towards Chen Zong. With a bang, the earth shook. The solid ice covered with claw marks was smashed and collapsed under the fierce attack of the tail. All the illusions were defeated and dissipated into nothingness. The heavy heart sword was not fully used, but it still made a huge wound on the ice dragon's neck. The blood on the wound was evaporated by the high temperature, leaving behind a patch of charred black. Chen Zong's real body appeared in the sky, and a cold light flashed in his eyes as he looked down. He raised the heavy dragon sword, and the sword light rushed into the sky as if it had shattered the snow dome above. Traces of brilliant heavenly power gathered from all directions, condensing into a stunning light. Heavenly Heart Sword. The majestic sword light contained the brilliant heavenly power, and it was terrifying to the extreme. It smashed down like a vacuum and went for the ice dragon's neck. The ice dragon, which had been severely injured, had its strength greatly reduced. It could not dodge this sword at all. However, the ice dragon's strength was very strong. It immediately exploded, and a claw with the extreme power of ice and frost clawed at the sky. Swoosh! The sky was torn apart, leaving behind streaks of icy claw marks, and it quickly rushed into the sky. Then, the ice dragon's tail swept again, and it smashed into the sky like a mountain. Chen Zong's figure was smashed again. That was another afterimage. His real body had already fallen at an extremely fast speed, and his sword was about to strike. Heartless sword. The subconscious instinct of the sword burst out, and it followed the best trajectory to strike, and its strength was extremely powerful. This sword penetrated the wound on the ice dragon's neck, and the injury was further aggravated. The sword chi rushed into the ice dragon's body and crazily strangled it. Kill. The severe pain made the ice dragon's 100-meter-long body toss and turn. It was severely injured when it was still asleep, and its powerful strength was greatly reduced. Now it was even more at a disadvantage. Ice chips kept splashing. The ice dragon endured Chen Zong's violent attacks again and again, and its injury was getting worse. Although the ice dragon was also constantly counterattacking, and the power of each counterattack was extremely terrifying, as if it could shatter heaven and earth, it did not pose much of a threat to Chen Zong. Dodge. Counterattack. Chen Zong held his breath. His face was as cold as iron in the deep sea, and his eyes were as sharp as a heavenly sword piercing through the sky. One strike after another, and each strike was exquisite to the extreme. It kept expanding the wound on the ice dragon's body, and the terrifying and scorching sword chi kept rushing into the ice dragon's body, causing secondary damage. Another sword slash came down. Boom! The sword light was majestic and mighty. It fell from the sky, as if a heavenly light was tearing through the 9 heavens, and it was about to sink into the earth. It was impossible to dodge, and it was also difficult to resist. All of the ice dragon's defenses were shattered by this strike. The ice dragon let out its last sorrowful roar. Its neck was finally cut off, and its huge head fell to the ground, smashing a huge hole in the solid ice ground. Chen Zong's body fell rapidly, and he breathed a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. This battle was very difficult. He had exhausted all of his strength, and this was the ice dragon that was seriously injured. If the ice dragon was in its prime, how powerful would it be? Fortunately, the battle was over, and he had killed the ice dragon. Other than consuming a lot of energy, he did not suffer any injuries. Chapter 12:16. The sky was cold and the ground was frozen. Countless cracks spread in all directions. The corpse of a huge ice dragon lay across a small broken iceberg. Blood flowed out, but it was frozen by the amazing coldness, forming bright red and gorgeous blood ice. The amazing aura still spread in all directions and slowly dissipated. However, it would take at least 15 minutes for it to completely disperse. As the elixir dissolved, Chernzong's consumed strength also recovered rapidly. The snowflake-shaped snow crystal was very large, 3 or 4 times the size of Chernzong's palm. It was also very heavy, even heavier than the heavy dragon sword. If Chernzong hadn't refined his body and had a strong physique, he would have had to use his spiritual power and constantly consume it to pick it up. Even now, Chernzong felt the weight of the snow crystal in his hand. In the next moment, the snowflake-shaped snow crystal in Chernzong's hand disappeared in an instant. It was put into the storage ring. It's time to open the door to the secret realm. Chernzong couldn't help but feel a little excited. He had finally collected all the snow crystals needed to open the door to the secret realm. One of the 36 opportunities to enter the Saint Realm was about to fall into his hand. However, he didn't know if the door to the secret realm had been discovered by others. Had it been opened by others? No matter what, Chernzong had to go back and take a look. The moment Chernzong moved, a green light that looked like a snake slithered through the air at lightning speed. It shot out from the side and blocked Chernzong's path. A terrifying aura locked onto Chernzong. This kind of aura was cold and domineering. It kept attacking, as if it wanted to swallow Chernzong. The green light dissipated, revealing a figure. He was wearing a green snake scale armor. On his pale face was a pair of dark and evil eyes. He stared at Chernzong with a cold aura. Chernzong recognized him. He was from the Dongli clan, one of the 3 bloodline clans. He was the leader of the 5 disciples of the Dongli clan. Dongli Green Jiao. Hand over that snow crystal. Dongli Qing Jiao stared at Chernzong with his dark and narrow eyes. Wisps of green light were swimming in his pupils like snakes, and a cold and slippery feeling quickly spread out from Chernzong's body. His voice was weird, as if countless snakes were hissing with their tongues out, which made people's scalps numb. The Eastern Fence Green Dragon was also looking for the snowflake-shaped snow crystal. He happened to catch a glimpse of it from afar and saw it with his amazing eyesight. Even though it was only taken a moment by Chernzong into his storage ring, he was sure that it was the snowflake-shaped snow crystal he was looking for. Fight. Since he had seen it, he had to fight for it. The other party was a disciple of White Cloud Mountain. He seemed to be the head disciple of White Cloud Mountain's outer sect. This identity was not bad in his eyes, but it was nothing much. After all, the number of disciples of the 3 great bloodline clans was indeed less than any of the 8 star forces. However, their overall strength wasn't inferior at all. In a one-on-one situation, the disciples of the 3 great bloodline clans were usually stronger. F***ck off. Chernzong spat out a word as cold as ice and as sharp as a sword. The Eastern Fence Green Dragon didn't think that his opponent would be so arrogant as to tell him to F***ck off. You're just an ant without a bloodline. The Eastern Fence Green Dragon's expression darkened, and his eyes became even more gloomy. A cold and sinister aura spread out from his body, and wisps of greenish-gray light rippled around his body like a group of dancing snakes. The void behind him was dyed with a layer of gray. In the next moment, the Eastern Fence Green Dragon raised his arm. It was as agile and cunning as a poisonous snake. His fingers were like the mouth of a snake, and it was difficult to tell where he was going to attack. With a hissing sound, the arm transformed into a greenish-gray poisonous snake and shot through the air. The angle of attack was extremely cunning, and its aura was extremely cold and sinister. Chernzong couldn't help but tremble, and he felt a chill run down his spine. When the greenish-gray poisonous snake was right in front of him, it suddenly transformed into dozens of snake shadows. They became more complex, more cunning, more sinister, and more difficult to distinguish. Every single snake shadow was real, and every single one of them carried a terrifying amount of power. The hissing sound kept ringing out like a group of snakes coming out of their holes, and it made one's scalp tingle. It was so slippery that it felt like dozens of venomous snakes were attacking him. The Eastern Fence Green Dragon showed his true strength as soon as he attacked, which made Chen Zong feel threatened. Especially now, Chen Zong had just killed the Ice Dragon, and his strength was almost depleted. He had only recovered about 40% of his strength after taking the elixir. He hadn't fully recovered yet. His toes touched the ground lightly, and his body moved like the wind. His steps were as nimble as flowing water, and he naturally retreated at an extremely fast speed. However, the dozens of snake shadows kept closing in on him, and the hissing sound became denser and more frightening. Behind the dozens of snake shadows, the Eastern Fence Green Dragon's eyes became darker and colder, and the evil intention became more and more obvious. With a flick of his left thumb, the heavy dragon sword turned into a pitch-black light and shot out. The powerful sword pressure broke through the air, and immediately made the snake shadows pause for a moment. Chen Zong grabbed the sword with his right hand, and his 5 fingers tightly grasped the sword hilt. The tyrannical power kept fluctuating, and he suddenly swung the sword horizontally. It was like an iron chain crossing the river, and also like a heavenly pillar falling across the sky. The astonishing sword pressure seemed to crush the void, and it spread out layers of violent ripples. The ripples were vast and mighty, and they could destroy mountains. Slash! Under the sword, the dozens of snake shadows paused one after another, and then they all shattered. The terrible pitch-black sword light shot back to the Eastern Fence Green Dragon. The Eastern Fence Green Dragon's face changed slightly, and its body twisted nimbly like a python turning over to avoid the pitch-black sword attack. In a flash, it rushed forward and appeared in front of Chen Zong like lightning. In a hundredth of a second, the Eastern Fence Green Dragon's flexible body kept twisting, as if it had turned into a green-gray python, and it surrounded Chen Zong layer by layer. The astonishing hissing sound was mixed with the roar of giant beasts, and it kept attacking. Chaos. The real and the fake intertwined. Suddenly, a terrible green-gray light shot out like an arrow from a bow, and it shot toward Chen Zong like lightning. The cold air swept through his whole body. Wave after wave of attacks came at him from all directions. It was as if there were no blind spots. Chen Zong's eyes flashed. He shook the heavy dragon sword, and the terrible sword whistling sound surged in all directions, tearing everything. The pitch-black sword light was like a blooming lotus, and it was like a hedgehog spreading its spikes all over its body. All the attacks of the Eastern Fence Green Dragon were blocked by Chen Zong's sword, and they were not broken at all. The sword circle of 5 feet in radius could not be broken. After facing powerful opponents again and again, this skill became more exquisite and perfect. The Eastern Fence Green Dragon was even more surprised that its attack was blocked by Chen Zong again. Immediately, the Eastern Fence Green Dragon's body changed. Sometimes it was tricky like a poisonous snake, and sometimes it was powerful like a python. Not bad, you can block 2 of my attacks, but that's just a warm-up. Next, it's time for you to die. The Eastern Fence Green Dragon's gloomy voice came out with a bit of sharpness and fierceness. The next moment, the Eastern Fence Green Dragon's right palm was filled with green light, and it was compressed into a beam of light, and it instantly shot out. As the green light flickered, a snake-shaped long sword appeared in the Eastern Fence Green Dragon's hand, and it was full of amazing fluctuations. A 9th-class spiritual weapon. Moreover, it was a bloodline spiritual weapon. In addition to ordinary spiritual weapons, there were also innate spiritual weapons and bloodline spiritual weapons. Innate spiritual weapons were born from heaven and earth. After being refined by cultivators, they would be continuously improved through cultivation and finally become saint weapons. Bloodline spiritual weapons were spiritual weapons that could only be owned by bloodline cultivators. They were forged with a special method, and they could be integrated with the cultivator's bloodline as if they were one. In other words, if there were enough materials, innate spiritual weapons could be cultivated into half-saint weapons or even saint weapons in advance, such as Fu Yunxiao's Cold Cloud Snow Shining Saber. Fu Yunxiao himself had not reached the half-saint level, but he had cultivated the Cold Cloud Snow Shining Saber to the half-saint level. However, bloodline spiritual weapons could not. The level of the bloodline spiritual weapons cultivation level was the same. If the bloodline cultivator broke through to the half-saint level, the bloodline spiritual weapon would also be upgraded to half-saint weapons. If the bloodline cultivator broke through to the saint realm, the bloodline spiritual weapon would also be upgraded to saint weapons. It was impossible for a bloodline spiritual weapon to have a higher grade than the bloodline spiritual weapon, unless one obtained a higher grade bloodline spiritual weapon and refined it. For example, if a 9th layer Transcendent Realm bloodline cultivator obtained a half-saint bloodline spiritual weapon and refined it for their own use, their strength would also be boosted by the half-saint grade bloodline spiritual weapon, allowing them to rapidly improve. However, bloodline spiritual weapons had one advantage, and that was that they could be integrated with the bloodline cultivator's bloodline, allowing them to mutually enhance each other's strength. With the bloodline spiritual weapon in hand, the East Fence Green Flood Dragon's aura grew stronger and stronger. It became even more invisible and fierce, like a deadly snake hiding in a dark corner. Its gloomy eyes were staring at its prey, waiting for the moment when the prey showed a flaw so that it could launch a fatal attack and kill it. Like a viper slithering across the surface of the water, the green fire snake's sword silently pierced through the air and stabbed towards Chen Zong from his lower left. The terrifying chill caused the skin on Chen Zong's lower left side to shrink as a chill swept through his body. A pitch-black sword light flashed, and the heavy dragon sword appeared on the bottom left side as if it had the help of the gods. The tip of the sword blocked this attack, and a tyrannical power exploded from the tip of the sword, like a green and black intertwined ball of light exploding. Chen Zong's complexion changed slightly. The power that burst out from his opponent's sword didn't seem to be very strong, but it was extremely strange, as if it was trying to penetrate his sword and invade his body like a snake's venom. The power contained in Chen Zong's sword also made Dongli Qingjiao feel uncomfortable. It was an extremely powerful blow that seemed to be able to crush everything. There was also an astonishing sharpness that seemed to want to pierce through his palm and shatter it. Deng deng deng. Eastern Fence Green Flood Dragon's figure rapidly retreated, his footsteps crisscrossing, his body becoming more agile and his movements more mysterious. Suddenly, Dongli Qingjiao leaped into the air. A greenish-gray light exploded from his body and spread in all directions. He raised his sword, and the greenish-gray light around him instantly condensed into a giant greenish-gray python. The python leapt into the air and let out a terrifying roar, its cold eyes staring down at Chen Zong, causing him to subconsciously tense up. Hong. Star. Chapter 12:17. His roar shook the heavens, and his energy overflowed like raging waves. The giant python seemed to have shattered the void, and a cold and tyrannical aura intertwined and revolved around it. Strands of greenish-gray lightning circled around the giant python, making it look even more frightening and terrifying. This attack contained astonishing power and majestic might, capable of destroying and shattering everything. Chen Zong's pupils constricted. Part of his recovered strength burst out. Like the water of a long river flowing backwards, it was compressed into the heavy dragon sword. The black sword light became majestic and dazzling. Heart-sinking sword. The sword attack that contained the essence of the path of refinement cloud was extremely powerful. As the sword was swung out, the sword pressure could topple mountains and seas, crushing everything in its path. The space within 10 meters of the sword seemed to have solidified like steel. It was extremely terrifying and oppressive. The astonishing power was vigorous and domineering, vast and fierce. Immediately, the green dragon's expression changed greatly. Boom! The giant python seemed to have descended from the 9 heavens, striking down fiercely. The heart-sinking sword rushed up into the sky, shattering the dome of heaven. The collision produced an astonishing momentum that swept through and shattered everything in its path. A terrifying force of energy spread in all directions, and the snowflakes within a radius of dozens of meters paused for a moment before shattering into dust that scattered everywhere. The icy ground also cracked and collapsed under the terrifying impact of the waves of power. So strong! The eastern fence green dragon flew up into the air and felt a powerful force rushing towards it, causing the green fire snake sword to tremble. The force kept hitting its hand and arm, as if it was trying to break the bones in its hand. Chernzong also bore the brunt of the recoil. He immediately channeled the force beneath his feet, shattering the ground. Looking down from above, the eastern fence green flood dragon's body twisted and turned like a snake. The green fire snake sword in its hand swayed continuously, as if the head of the snake was swaying to confuse its opponent, searching for the best opportunity and angle. Chi! Chi! Streaks of cyan-gray sword light swished down from the sky. Every single one of them was wriggling in the air like a foot-long poisonous snake, darting towards Ji Hao with lightning speed. The cyan-gray snake-shaped sword light enveloped Chernzong within a radius of 10 meters, as if it had sealed off the void, making it impossible for Chernzong to dodge. However, being unable to dodge was only relative. With Chernzong's realm and the coverage of his super-strong spiritual sense, he was able to turn the impossible into possible. His body tilted slightly forward and his shoulders shook slightly. His speed was disorderly as he shuttled through the dozens of greenish-gray snake-shaped sword lights. The originally dilapidated ice on the ground shattered one after another, turning it into a sieve. Chernzong glided on the ice surface, seemingly slow but actually fast. He appeared right under the green dragon of Eastern Fence, raised his heavy dragon sword, and slashed through the air. The pitch-black sword light was ferocious and overbearing. It directly covered the area of 10 meters around the green dragon. The terrifying heavy power turned into an extremely shocking sword pressure. The pressure from all directions was extremely heavy, which made the green dragon's expression change drastically. He felt as if his body was about to be crushed. Explode! With a low shout, a greenish-gray snake slithered around his body and instantly exploded. An extremely frightening aura exploded, as if it could destroy a mountain. In an instant, it repelled the heavy sword pressure of the heavy dragon sword. His figure flashed, and countless phantoms appeared in the air. They were like the wriggling body of a python. Cold, overbearing, strange, and tricky auras merged into one. Under the extremely powerful sword pressure of the heavy dragon sword, the phantoms of the green dragon of Eastern Fence were shattered one after another. However, the fatal blow was also aimed at Chernzong's back. In the next breath, Chernzong's strong body would be pierced through. It was as if there was a pair of extremely sharp eyes on his back. Everything around him was under the control of Chernzong. The heavy dragon sword, which had been flying up to smash the phantoms, was extremely nimble and light. It was as if he was holding a blade of grass instead of a heavy sword that weighed 98,000 kilograms. The heavy dragon sword was as fast as lightning, as light as a feather, and as fluttering as the clouds. It instantly appeared behind Chernzong's back. The tip of the sword just happened to touch the tip of the green fire snake sword. The green fire snake sword touched the tip of the sword and instantly retracted. Like a deadly assassin, it would escape immediately after a missed attack. Its body once again began to move. Chernzong's strength and the weight of the heavy dragon sword made the Eastern Fence green flood dragon fearful. It didn't want to fight with Chernzong head-on, so it displayed its agility and craftiness to the fullest. However, under Chernzong's high cultivation level and powerful spiritual sense, all of the Green Dragon of Eastern Fence's techniques were neutralized and counterattacked by Chen Zong. Once, twice, thrice. The more the fight went on, the more serious the Green Dragon of Eastern Fence's expression became. It finally realized that it had underestimated this cultivator without any bloodline. To be able to become the chief disciple of an 8-star force, one's strength must be extraordinary. But that's all. A sharp and cold light flashed through the Green Dragon of Eastern Fence's eyes. Moving at high speed, the Green Dragon of Eastern Fence's body became more and more strange. It was like a giant snake, sometimes darting out quickly, sometimes twisting and turning. Then, the Green Dragon of Eastern Fence's body shot up into the sky. In the blink of an eye, it was hundreds of meters away. In midair, a terrifying sound suddenly came from its body. It sounded like the hiss of thousands of snakes, but also like the roar of a giant python. A faint, high-pitched, sharp, and cruel dragon's roar echoed in all directions. Chen Zong was slightly startled and his expression became serious. High in the sky, the Green Dragon of Eastern Fence's body constantly emitted a dazzling greenish-gray light. The light covered its entire body like a giant cocoon. It also looked like a greenish-gray scorching sun hanging in the sky, shining down on everything. Chen Zong's sharp senses told him that a powerful aura was constantly growing inside the giant greenish-gray cocoon. It was growing at an astonishing speed, as if a peerless beast was being nurtured inside. Bloodline power? Chen Zong stared at the sky and said to himself. The 3 big clans were all bloodline clans, and their bloodlines were extraordinary. For example, the bloodline of the Eastern Fence clan was the Black Snake bloodline. Bloodlines were divided into low-grade, mid-grade, high-grade, and the super-grade, which was above the high-grade. Bloodlines of different grades had different effects on the cultivator after awakening. For example, the fierce tiger bloodline that Gao Leping had awakened was only a low-grade bloodline. However, once it was awakened, his cultivation and talent were immediately enhanced. Once the bloodline power was stimulated, his strength and speed would increase correspondingly. His strength would increase by at least 50%. A 50% increase in strength was like a secret method that would never be outdated. Awakening a mid-grade bloodline would also increase one's cultivation and talent. After the bloodline power was stimulated, one's strength could be doubled. As for a high-grade bloodline, it was even more terrifying. After awakening, one's talent would be greatly enhanced. After the bloodline power was stimulated, one's strength could be doubled. If the previous strength index was 1, then after the bloodline power of a high-grade bloodline, it would be 3. It was even more terrifying. This kind of enhancement was not equivalent to having 2 more people with the same strength as oneself. A 2-fold increase in strength was incalculable. One could even fight against 10 of oneself. The Black Snake bloodline was one of the high-grade bloodlines. In fact, the bloodlines of the 3 big clans were all high-grade bloodlines. Of course, this did not mean that everyone in the 3 big clans had awakened a high-grade bloodline. Most of them had awakened a low-grade bloodline, and a few of them had awakened a mid-grade bloodline. As for those who had awakened a high-grade bloodline, there were only a few among the younger generation of the 3 big clans. For example, in the Eastern Fence clan, there were only 3 people who had awakened a high-grade bloodline in the younger generation. The Eastern Fence Green Dragon was one of the best. There were differences among bloodlines of the same grade. The difference was the purity of the bloodline. The higher the purity of the bloodline, not only could it enhance one's strength, but it also meant a deeper potential and better talent. The improvement of potential and talent would affect one's cultivation. The Eastern Fence Green Dragon's Black Snake bloodline purity had reached an astonishing 30%. 30% sounded a little low, but it was not low at all. The other 2 disciples' bloodline purity was 20% and 10% respectively. Among the surviving clansmen of the Eastern Fence clan, there were less than 10 people who possessed a high-grade bloodline purity of 30%. When the bloodline purity reached 100%, the next step was to transform. The low-grade would transform into the mid-grade would transform into the high-grade, and the high-grade would transform into the transcendent grade. Of course, it was very difficult to increase the purity of one's bloodline. For the vast majority of bloodline cultivators, it was impossible unless they had a fortuitous encounter. As soon as the high-grade black snake bloodline was activated, an extremely powerful energy filled the Eastern Fence Green Dragon's body. An extremely terrifying aura rippled and exploded in all directions. The greenish-gray sun seemed to be suppressing an extremely powerful energy into the Eastern Fence Green Dragon's body, causing its aura to skyrocket. The Eastern Fence Green Dragon was bathed in the greenish-gray light. Chen Zong's eyes were extremely sharp. He focused and saw that the light seemed to be formed by countless poisonous snakes that were thinner than a strand of hair. His long black hair turned greenish-gray and danced wildly in the wind like countless poisonous snakes. It gave off an eerie and sinister feeling. The Eastern Fence Green Dragon's eyes also changed greatly. It was as if he had lost his human form and turned into snake-like vertical pupils. A greenish-gray light flickered in his vertical pupils. The green fire snake sword buzzed and vibrated, releasing an even more terrifying sword aura. Its aura grew stronger and stronger. This was the frightening aspect of a bloodline spiritual weapon. Although bloodline spiritual weapons could not be nurtured ahead of time like natural spiritual weapons, if a bloodline cultivator activated their own bloodline power, it would still affect the weapon and strengthen it. At this moment, the green fire snake sword's power multiplied and became even more terrifying. In this state, the Eastern Fence Green Dragon was at his peak and possessed extremely terrifying strength. Looking down from above, the Eastern Fence Green Dragon's cold vertical pupils stared at Chen Zong without a trace of emotion. There was only coldness and darkness. Chen Zong's skin went numb and his subconscious tensed up. He felt as if he had become the prey of an ancient poisonous snake. It was an extremely uncomfortable feeling. Drifting down. Chapter 12:18. Its long blue and gray hair danced in the wind like a group of snakes, and the blue and gray light around its body seemed to condense into a giant python. A cold and incomparably cold aura locked onto Chen Zong, while a tyrannical aura slammed into Chen Zong. The two auras merged into one, causing Chen Zong's scalp to go numb and his body to stiffen. Strong. After awakening its black snake bloodline, East Fence Azure Flood Dragon's strength soared, directly leaping into the half-saint realm. There was a clear gap between the limit of the transcendent realm and the half-saint realm. The half-saint realm was already a powerful master. Die! A strange voice like the hissing and roaring of snakes rang out from East Fence Azure Flood Dragon's mouth, like a thunderclap shattering space, its vertical pupils condensing and releasing an increasingly cold and tyrannical murderous intent. After the awakening of its bloodline power, an even more powerful strength surged out from its body and poured into its bloodline spirit artifact, the green fire snake sword. The sword hummed loudly and a sword light flashed as it pierced through the air, seemingly unstoppable. Slash! East Fence Azure Flood Dragon slashed out with its sword, causing a sharp and majestic sound to ring out. An extremely dreadful green-gray sword light blasted down. It seemed as if it could cleave the heavens and the earth. The power of the attack of the semi-sage level was extremely terrifying. The sword light hadn't chopped down yet, but the astonishing sword pressure had already torn the void apart. Then, it fiercely chopped down on the hard ice and snow ground. Kacha-kacha sounds rang out as a crack rapidly spread across more than 100 meters. Below, Chen Zong only felt a terrifying sword pressure descend upon him, as if it wanted to crush his body. Strong. This kind of pressure was really strong. Especially now, he had used up too much energy in his battle with the ice dragon. Although he had taken some medicinal pills to recover, he had only recovered about 30 to 40% of his strength when he encountered the Eastern Fence Azure Flood Dragon. After that battle, he had used up even more energy. Including the medicinal pills, he only had 20% of his strength left. Losing 20% of his strength was very disadvantageous for him. After all, his normal strength had not yet reached the half-saint realm. The gap between the limit of the transcendent realm and the half-saint realm was very large, almost a qualitative change. Even though Chen Zong constantly cultivated and improved his strength, as if there was no limit to the limit of the transcendent realm, he still had not truly reached the half-saint realm. This was because the standard to step into the half-saint realm was to transform one's spiritual energy into half-saint power. The power possessed by a Saint Realm Master was called Saint Force, and the power of Saint Force was incomparable to Spirit Chi. The gap between the two was not as simple as 10 times, but rather 100 times. A 100-fold difference in power was one of the reasons why it was impossible for anyone below the Saint Realm to resist a Saint Realm Master. The gap between them was too great. It was like a natural chasm, separating the strong from the strong. A Saint Realm expert could be called a powerhouse. A half-saint below the Saint Realm could only be called a powerhouse. Of course, in some small places, late-stage Transcendent Realm Masters were called Masters. The power contained in the 9 spiritual wheels in Chen Zong's body was still spiritual power. Although it was terrifyingly pure, it was still spiritual power and not semi-saint power. There was a huge gap between spiritual power and saint power. The difference was 100 times, and the gap between spiritual power and saint power was almost 10 times. Although spiritual power or semi-saint power was only a part of a cultivator's total strength, it still accounted for a large proportion. The nearly 10-fold gap between spiritual power and semi-saint power did not mean that a cultivator's strength would be 10 times greater. After all, there were other factors, such as extraordinary strength, martial arts level, martial arts attainments, martial Dao realm, and so on. But in any case, once one's spiritual power transformed into semi-saint power, the increase in one's strength was obvious. What's more, the more powerful one's martial arts were, the more powerful one's martial arts would be. As this thought flashed through Chen Zong's mind, Dong Li Qing Jiao's tyrannical sword slashed down. Slash! Without hesitation, Chen Zong grasped the void with his right hand and a golden flame burst out, filling the air with a tyrannical aura. Scarlet Flame Sword. Half-saint artifact. Dong Li Qing Jiao was stunned. His eyes narrowed in shock. Even many half-saint masters did not have a half-saint artifact, but this person actually had one. Possessing a half-saint artifact meant that one could possess the strength of a half-saint for a certain period of time. This was the same as activating the bloodline power. After activating the bloodline power, it would not last forever. Instead, it would be consumed continuously until it was used up, or it would stop on its own initiative. Let's finish this quickly. I want that half-saint artifact. Dong Li Qing Jiao was greedy. If he could get that half-saint artifact, his overall strength would be greatly improved. Chen Zong held the scarlet flame sword and poured the purple cloud black star flame into it. The purple flame covered the black starlight and wrapped the scarlet flame sword. Its power became more and more terrible. Heartless sword. This sword was unintentional, but it drew the most mysterious trajectory between heaven and earth. It was difficult to capture. This was also a half-saint artifact sword. The two sword lights collided in an instant and then exploded with amazing power. The shock wave shattered the vacuum and swept in all directions, smashing everything around into powder. Dong Li Qing Jiao's face became colder. He had thought that after activating the bloodline power and reaching the half-saint level, his strength would be enough to crush and kill this person. He did not expect that his opponent would have a half-saint artifact and the strength of a half-saint. For a moment, Dong Liqingjiao could not do anything to Chen Zong. Fight. This was a battle between half-saints. Every blow had the strength of a half-saint. It was extremely tyrannical and powerful. It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. The terrible power spread in all directions. Pieces of ice and rocks were smashed into powder. Countless snowflakes were shaken into powder. Chen Zong's third level of sword principle, the heart-controlling sword, had already reached the perfection level. Moreover, Chen Zong was constantly digging out its potential. Under the control of the Scarlet Flame Sword, the consumption of his own strength became smaller. 20% of his strength was enough. As Chen Zong's strength was being consumed, so was Dong Liqingjiao's bloodline power. Of course, this consumption was temporary and could be recovered later. It would not affect his own bloodline. Dong Liqingjiao waved his sword. Every blow emitted a cyan-gray sword light. The sword light was like a snake swimming in the air. The world seemed to have been transformed into a snake cave. It was extremely terrifying. Then, all the snakes gathered in the center. They entwined with each other and merged into a giant python. The giant python transformed into a more powerful cyan-gray snake in an instant. This snake was overbearing and ferocious. It was filled with amazing mysterious fluctuations. Mysterious snake. Mysterious snake strike. This was the strongest move that Dong Liqingjiao could perform at the moment. Even if this strike could not kill the opponent, it would at least severely injure him and make him lose his combat ability. Chen Zong's pupils contracted to the size of needles. Strong. The pressure brought about by this attack was simply too strong. It was so strong that it made Chen Zong's heart palpitate. He waved his sword. The scarlet flame sharp sword immediately rolled up a burst of violent sword light. The sword light was like a torrential rain that surged through the sky, shattering everything. Moreover, under Chen Zong's powerful ability, the sword light fused together, condensing into an increasingly majestic and vast sword light that pierced through the air and shot out. The majestic sword light was shattered by the mysterious snake's strike. It was as if it could not resist at all. However, Chen Zong had already waved his sword again. Heartless sword. Heart-sinking sword. Kill. Kill. Boom. The golden flames burned fiercely on the sword, as if it wanted to burn everything to ashes. Kill. Another sword slashed out. This sword seemed to burn a corner of the sky, wanting to burn it to ashes. Golden flames illuminated the world. Boom. The mysterious snake strike collided with the red flame-sharp sword. An even more terrifying energy wave spread out, shaking the world with shocking coldness and heat. The terrifying impact of the energy dyed the space black. The roar seemed to come from an infinitely high place, shattering everything. The eastern fence green dragon's body was thrown high into the air. The recoil of this power was too strong, so strong that even he could not bear it. He spat out a mouthful of blood in the air, and the greenish-gray light around him flickered, like a candle in the wind that could be extinguished at any time. The mysterious snake strike had used most of its bloodline power. When it counterattacked, it had to use its own strength to resist, which consumed more of its energy. It was difficult to maintain it any longer. Below, Chen Zong also suffered from the impact of the terrifying energy. He felt his blood and qi tremble, as if his bones and tendons were about to be crushed. Fortunately, Chen Zong's body-refining cultivation was not bad. His strong physique gave him a stronger ability to resist. He did not spit out blood like Dong Liqingjiao, but he also retreated several steps. Every step he took crushed the broken ground below, leaving deep footprints. There were cracks all around the footprints, which were caused by Chen Zong trying his best to direct the impact to the ground. Although Chen Zong was not injured, he was not in a good condition. The energy in his body was running amok, making him feel pain. Dong Liqingjiao's eyes were extremely cold. Through hundreds of meters of the void, it seemed to see through Chen Zong. The killing intent in his eyes was so sharp and cold that it made people shudder. In the next moment, Dong Liqing Jiao did not attack Chen Zong again because he had used up a lot of his bloodline power. He also suffered some internal injuries. On the other hand, Chen Zong did not seem to be injured. If they continued to fight, it would be difficult to determine the winner. If his bloodline power was used up, his strength would return to its previous level. If his opponent could still use the power of a half-divine weapon, it would be very unfavorable for him. Go! He made a prompt decision. Dong Liqing Jiao suppressed his killing intent and left quickly. Looking at Dong Liqing Jiao's body falling rapidly in the air, Chen Zong did not chase after him because his strength was almost used up. He immediately took out an elixir to recover his consumed strength. Otherwise, he would be in great danger if he encountered any danger or a strong enemy like Dong Liqing Jiao. Chapter 12-19. Inside the flying snow secret territory, there were thousands of miles of ice and snow. More than 100 people were constantly cruising at high speed, looking for the secret territory door and the corresponding snow crystals. Ha 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 ha, just one more snow crystal, and I can open the secret territory door. A disciple of the 5 Extinction Heavenly Palace laughed. It was a laugh of victory. There were 36 secret territory doors, and to be able to find one was already considered lucky. But to be able to find a suitable snow crystal and activate it, not only did it require luck, but also enough strength. After all, some of the snow crystal's owners were snow beasts with terrifying strength. Chen Zong was very fast, and he flew straight to the place where he found the secret territory door. Suddenly, a golden-red flaming saber light smashed towards him from the side, as if it had shattered the vacuum. This blade light was more than 20 meters long, and the golden-red flame was extremely condensed, emitting a monstrous heat. As soon as it appeared, everything around it was incinerated. Facing this sudden attack, Chen Zong's expression did not change at all, as if he was not surprised. The heavy dragon sword was unsheathed, and the pitch-black sword light shot out. The tyrannical power immediately shattered the flaming blade light, and countless golden-red sparks splashed out. The second one, the third one, the fourth one. In the blink of an eye, another 3 tyrannical golden-red flaming blade lights came from the left, the middle, and the right, cutting open the ice and snow ground. The power of these 3 blades was even more tyrannical, and they cooperated well with each other, blocking all of Chen Zong's escape routes. But did Chen Zong need to dodge? No need. He did not need to dodge at all. With the heavy dragon sword in his hand, the sword shook, and instantly turned into 3 sword lights that shot out. The power was unparalleled. Pop, pop, pop. The 3 golden-red flaming blade lights paused for a moment, and then burst, making a sound like a bubble being popped. Want to leave? Chen Zong's eyes flashed with incomparable sharpness. His body didn't move, but the heavy dragon sword suddenly pierced out, as if it had pierced through the void. The astonishing pitch-black sword light was incomparably tyrannical as it blasted to one side. Earlier, Chen Zong felt that someone was lurking around, ready to attack him, so he was not surprised when he saw the golden-red flaming blade light. Now, the person who attacked him found that his strength was unexpectedly strong, and was not confident, so he planned to retreat. How could there be such a good thing in the world? Naturally, Chen Zong would not let the other party off so easily. Facing Chen Zong's sword, the attacker's face suddenly changed, and hurriedly waved his long sword, and the golden-red flame, and his whole person was like a blazing sun, emitting an astonishing amount of heat and light. Lu Yenji. This person was Lu Yenji, who had joined the 7 Flames Glazed Palace. He was lucky to have entered the flying snow secret land and saw Chen Zong. He planned to kill Chen Zong and take the unique flame from him. However, He did not expect that his sudden attack would not be able to do anything to the other party. Although he was unwilling, Lu Yenji could see that the other party was very strong. He might not be able to defeat the other party. He even felt a faint sense of danger in his heart. Retreat. After shattering the black sword light, Lu Yenji's speed exploded, and he turned into a stream of golden-red flaming light, flying far away. However, Chunzong's speed was even faster. In a short span of 3 breaths, Chunzong's figure had already leaped past Lu Yenji. The heavy dragon sword pierced through the sky and blocked Lu Yenji's path. Both White Cloud Mountain and 7 Flames Glazed Palace were 8-star forces, and their combined strength and foundation were about the same. Chunzong was the chief disciple of White Cloud Mountain's outer sect. Although Lu Yenji was not bad, he was not in the top 3 of 7 Flames Glazed Palace's outer sect, and there was a big gap between him and Chunzong. Staring at Chunzong, Lu Yenji's face was full of fear, and his voice was full of questions. Chunzong, what do you want? Didn't you want to kill me? Why are you running? Chunzong asked calmly. When did I want to kill you? Lu Yenji immediately explained, and then he pretended to be enlightened. Are you talking about just now? After all, we came here from the lower and central regions, and we're considered acquaintances. I was happy to see you, and I wanted to test your strength. You're really strong and not inferior to me at all. Is that so? Then I'll test your strength now. Chunzong sneered. All of Lu Yenji's excuses were useless, and Chunzong did not plan to continue arguing with him, so he slashed out with his sword. Lu Yenji's expression changed, and he swung his long sword. The sword light was majestic and scorching, as if it was going to burn everything. As the sword and saber collided, a terrifying power erupted from the heavy dragon sword. The power was like a flash flood, and it was also like the impact of an ancient giant beast, causing Lu Yenji's expression to change drastically. His long sword shook and he was forced to retreat. The arm that was holding the sword felt numb and painful. Without any hesitation, Lu Yenji took advantage of the momentum to retreat, turn around, and push his body art to the extreme, exploding with a shocking power. His body was like a huge fireball, shooting into the distance. He was fast, but Chunzong was even faster. Block, sword attack. This Lu Yenji had threatened Chunzong in the ancient war city, and he had the intention to kill Chunzong. Now, he even tried to kill Chunzong. If Chunzong was not strong enough, he would have already been killed. Chunzong would never show mercy to people who wanted to kill him. Kill. Heavy heart sword. As the sword slashed out, the majestic and incomparably heavy sword pressure suppressed the void. It was as if it had solidified into steel, causing Lu Yenji's body to stop. It was as if he had been locked in a space and was unable to move. This horrifying sword pressure made Lu Yenji's expression turn ugly. He finally realized the gap between him and Chunzong, which was like a natural chasm. Explode. 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 The power in Lu Yenji's body was crazily operating, like boiling magma erupting. Golden red flames seeped out of Lu Yenji's mouth and nose, as if his whole body was filled with golden red flames. This kind of outburst was a desperate outburst. Even if it would cause harm to himself, he had to break free from the horrifying sword pressure brought by Chunzong's sword. In an instant, Lu Yenji broke free, but he did not have the slightest intention to attack. Instead, he flew away at an even faster speed. Run. He must run away. This Chunzong's strength was too horrifying. He was not worse than the top 3 disciples of the 7 Flames Glazed Palace, and could even be compared with the top one. Lu Yenji could not figure it out. In just 5 years, a person whose cultivation was not as good as his, entered a force of the same level as him, had risen to such a terrifying level. It was like a dream. Boom. It was as if a part of the world was shattered and collapsed. An amazing force hit Lu Yenji's back, and his body was thrown away like a ragged sack, vomiting blood. Don't go too far. Lu Yenji, who quickly got up, was furious. Hatred and murderous intent filled his eyes and face. However, Chen Zong did not reply. The second sword slashed out. Lu Yenji did have some skills, but that was all. You want me to die, I want you to die too. Lu Yenji roared crazily. Facing Chen Zong's pursuit, he found that he could not escape at all. Since that was the case, he would drag his opponent down with him. Boom! Golden red flames suddenly rushed out of Lu Yenji's body like a volcanic eruption. The golden red flames became incomparably sticky, and a horrifying aura spread out from it. Immediately, the magma-like golden red flames drilled into Lu Yenji's body through his mouth, nose, eyes, and ears. Inhuman roars came from Lu Yenji's mouth, as if he was in great pain. In just a short moment, Lu Yenji's aura was completely restrained. Chen Zong's expression changed, and he immediately retreated without hesitation. Self-detonation. Lu Yenji was going to self-detonate, and it was a very clever self-detonation method. Chen Zong could not interrupt it. With Chen Zong's current realm, he could interrupt an ordinary self-detonation in advance. However, Lu Yenji's self-detonation method could not. It was a very clever self-detonation method. Once self-detonated, the power would be even more terrifying. Retreat, retreat, retreat. Don't even think about leaving. Lu Yenji roared again and again while enduring great pain. He turned into a golden red flame and rushed toward Chen Zong. He swore to drag Chen Zong down with him. One retreated, one advanced. Chen Zong swung his sword, and the pitch-black sword light smashed into Lu Yenji's body like a vacuum. Suddenly, a shocking sound was heard, and Lu Yenji's body stopped. However, he was not killed. Instead, his powerful strength resisted Chen Zong's sword. The second sword. The third sword. Chen Zong's face was calm. He attacked again and again, making it difficult for Lu Yenji to get close to him. He was constantly receiving attack. Although it seemed that Lu Yenji could resist Chen Zong's every sword attack, it was only on the surface. Lu Yenji's body would be severely injured after every sword attack. He was in great pain, and the terrifying power was rampaging in his body until it reached its limit. Boom! Explosion! It was an earth-shattering explosion. Lu Yenji's body could not withstand the increasingly violent power and exploded in an instant. The golden red flame burst out from Lu Yenji's body. It shattered the surrounding area like a 1,000-foot wave, and then rolled out, covering 100 meters in an instant. Chen Zong's face changed. He attacked with his sword, and at the same time, he retreated rapidly. His body was light and fast, and he retreated hundreds of meters in an instant. However, the golden red flame wave was still rolling toward him. It was so hot that it felt like it was going to burn him. Fortunately, Chen Zong had the purple cloud black star flame, which was strong enough to resist the heat of the flame. Even so, he could still feel the shocking heat. 1,000 meters. The golden red flame swept across a radius of 1,000 meters, and everything within that radius was burned to ashes. After 3 breaths, the golden red flame was extinguished, and only smoke rose in spirals. The ground within 1,000 meters was completely scorched black, and a huge, deep, black pit was blown out 100 meters away. It was several meters deep. An astonishing amount of heat was still rising from the charred area. Chen Zong could not help but gasp. The power of this self-explosion was too powerful. It was even more powerful than the all-out attack of the Eastern Fence Green Dragon after it activated its bloodline power. Chapter 12:20. Everything within a kilometer of scorched earth was destroyed by the terrifying heat and shocking explosive force. Even Lu Yenji's storage ring was damaged, and everything in the ring was naturally destroyed by the shattered space in the ring. Lu Yenji's self-destruction was too powerful and too shocking. It was not an ordinary self-destruction at all, but the seven flames glazed palace's self-destruction technique. It was very clever, triggering the rare flames of heaven and earth in the body to explode, erupting with incredible power in an instant and destroying everything around it. Under such a self-destruction, the rare flames of heaven and earth in the body would completely disappear. The seven flames glazed palace created such a self-destruction technique for two reasons. First, to prevent the rare flames of heaven and earth from falling into the hands of others. Second, to use such a self-destruction technique to fully unleash the power of the rare flames of heaven and earth and kill the other party. It was killing two birds with one stone. Since Lu Yenji's self-destruction left nothing behind, and Chen Zong had nothing to gain, Chen Zong did not stay for long and quickly left. Chen Zong did not really care whether he gained anything or not, because what was really good was the opportunity to enter the Saint Realm. Leaving quickly, Chen Zong soon returned to the place where he found the secret realm gate. The secret realm gate had not been opened yet, and there was no one else, but the attentive Chen Zong also found traces left behind by others, indicating that someone else had also found this secret realm gate. It was a race against time. Hurry! Chen Zong immediately took out pieces of snow crystals from his storage ring. With a quick wave of his hand, the snow crystals landed around the entrance to the secret realm. Finally, Chen Zong took out the largest and heaviest snowflake-shaped snow crystal. With a trace of anticipation and seriousness, he mounted the snowflake-shaped snow crystal. Stop! Suddenly, an angry roar sounded, turning into rolling sound waves that rushed madly, as if thunder from the 9 heavens had exploded. Chen Zong knew that someone had come to stop him, and even compete with him for this secret realm gate. Chen Zong ignored it, and accelerated the mounting of the snowflake snow crystal. I told you to stop. That overbearing roar grew even more furious as it drew closer and closer. At the same time, an extremely terrifying attack blasted out. The momentum of the attack was mighty and overbearing. Before the attack even reached him, a shocking pressure had already hit Chen Zong, causing Chen Zong's expression to turn slightly solemn. Very strong. The heaven and earth yuan qi surged and gathered into a huge palm print. It was like a mountain, smashing everything in its path. The palm print covered the sky and covered the sun, suppressing the earth and mountains. Its astonishing aura was vigorous to the extreme, crushing everything. Chen Zong was secretly shocked. The power of this attack was too strong, and it was not any weaker than Fu Yunxiao's. However, even though he was surprised, Chen Zong was not afraid at all. He unsheathed his heavy dragon sword and slashed out at a speed that seemed slow but was actually fast. The extremely heavy sword slashed through the air, creating layers of ripples in the air like water. The ripples quickly spread out and swept in all directions. Heart-sinking sword. The sword seemed to be able to shatter the mountains and sky. It slashed out with terrifying power and collided with the huge palm. The palm print was like a mountain, and the sword broke the mountain. The palm print was like the sky, and the sword broke the sky. After the collision, both the palm print and the sword light paused. They burst out with astonishing power and collided with each other, constantly resisting each other. Kacha! 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 Cracks began to appear on the palm print and spread rapidly. Cracks also appeared on the dark sword light and continued to spread. Chen Zong did not pay attention to it. Instead, he sped up, embedding the snowflake-shaped snow crystal. Kacha! Chen Zong's heart suddenly skipped a beat, as if a drum had fallen on his heart. A ray of light lit up from the snowflake-shaped snow crystal and became dazzling in an instant. Immediately, the ray of light was like a winding dragon and lightning that split the sky. It hit the second snow crystal, and then the ray of light lit up and quickly spread to the third snow crystal. At the same time, the sword light exploded and the palm print collapsed. The extremely terrifying power spread in all directions, rolling up a level 18 violent wind and blowing everything. Get out of my way! The angry roar sounded again. With a tyrannical posture, it crushed the astonishing power impact and the violent wind and closed in on Chen Zong. A huge finger filled with a gray brilliance shot out. It was extremely heavy and vigorous, as if it had condensed the power of a mountain. The lines on the huge finger were extremely clear and lifelike. It was as if the finger of a giant was striking down from the sky and crushing everything. The ground under Chen Zong shattered, but the secret world gate was not affected at all. Even the attack of a Saint Realm Master could not destroy the secret world gate, let alone a non-Saint Realm Master. The momentum of this finger was not as vast as the palm print just now, but it made Chen Zong even more wary. This was because the power of this finger was more restrained and condensed. Once it erupted, it would be even more terrifying. As the heavy dragon sword danced, it brought up layers of dark sword shadows. It was as gorgeous as a peacock spreading its tail. Immediately, the sword shadows overlapped, and with each overlapping, the aura became more and more tyrannical. When all the sword shadows overlapped and merged into the sword, the aura contained in the sword reached an astonishing level. Kill! Chen Zong stabbed out with his sword. The heavy dragon sword brought with it extreme power to kill the finger. Pause. The surrounding space seemed to be frozen. Only the secret world gate was not affected at all. The light continued to penetrate the snow crystal and quickly spread out, gradually engulfing the entire gate. The huge finger collapsed and the sword light shattered. Chen Zong's figure swayed and retreated a few steps, slamming into the secret world gate. The terrifying power spread out in all directions, forcing the owner of the huge finger to retreat again and again. An astonishing aura swept out, shattering the ground and setting off waves of snow and ice that were tens of meters tall. The falling snowflakes within a range of several hundred meters and even 1,000 meters all paused for a moment. Then, they were crushed into powder by an invisible force and scattered in the air. Through the snowflakes and powder that filled the sky, Chen Zong saw the other party clearly. A disciple of the Five-Ju Heavenly Palace. Of course, he was not the chief disciple of the Five-Ju Heavenly Palace, but his strength was still very strong. He should be ranked very high in the Five-Ju Heavenly Palace's outer sect, perhaps even in the top 3. That's right, this person was called Zhou Yunlong. He was the second disciple of the Five-Ju Heavenly Palace's outer sect, which meant that he was the second strongest disciple. His strength was very terrifying, and he was a disciple of the Five-Ju Heavenly Palace's Martial Ju branch. He had also discovered this secret plane door before and had begun to hunt snow beasts for snow crystals. Finally, he had obtained all the snow crystals and had rushed over excitedly, intending to activate the secret plane door and obtain one of the 36 spots to become a saint. Unexpectedly, there was someone who was one step ahead of him. The opportunity to become a saint was very important, and Zhou Yunlong could not miss it. And so far, he had only found one secret world gate. No matter what, he could not let others take it away. Suddenly, with a buzzing sound, light like water filled the entire secret world gate. An astonishing aura quickly spread out, filled with indescribable mystery. Zhou Yunlong's eyes emitted an incomparably sharp light, and an extremely tyrannical power erupted once again. A punch broke through the air and blasted out. Under this punch, the void trembled endlessly, as if it could shatter everything, and immediately brought about an obvious threat to Chen Zong. Chen Zong swung his sword, and the heavy dragon sword brought about an incomparably stunning sword light that destroyed everything. Unexpectedly, under the sword, the punch burst like a bubble in an instant, as if it was a dream. Zhou Yunlong's body also shattered under the sword light. That was fake, it was an afterimage. The seemingly tyrannical blow just now was just a feint by Zhou Yunlong. Chen Zong's expression did not change at all, as if everything was under his control. He turned around and his sword cut across the sky. A figure also appeared under Chen Zong's terrifying sword pressure, and it was Zhou Yunlong. Zhou Yunlong planned to feint to attract Chen Zong's attention, and sneak past Chen Zong to enter the secret world gate first. After all, the secret world gate was now open. Although it was not opened by itself, there was no restriction on who could open it and who could pass through. Unexpectedly, all of this was under Chen Zong's control. The heavy dragon sword cut across the sky and intercepted Zhou Yunlong. A tyrannical power erupted and suddenly slashed toward Zhou Yunlong. This sword was somewhat unexpected. Zhou Yunlong's face was gloomy and ferocious, and his killing intent was blazing. "You deserve to die." In an instant, he grabbed and twisted his hands forward, as if twisting the void, causing the heavy dragon's sword to be strangled by two diametrically opposite forces, and it almost flew out of his hands. Zhou Yunlong's eyes emitted an incomparably terrifying killing intent, and his twisting claws burst out with gray light. They were vigorous, heavy, and sharp, and madly grabbed at Chen Zong, containing the aura fluctuations of two kinds of transcendent secret forces. The power burst out, and the heavy dragon's sword shook and seemed to make a high-pitched dragon roar. The pitch-black sword light spread out, and the impact burst out. Slash. It was a powerful and heavy sword, and at such a close distance, so Zhou Yunlong could only take it head-on, and his whole body flew back immediately. Chen Zong also took advantage of this force to quickly retreat, and appeared above the secret realm gate, and quickly fell into the secret realm gate. "Get out!" Zhou Yunlong's eyes were about to burst, and he roared with rage. He suddenly grabbed with both hands, and an astonishing force came out of his claws like a dragon's claw, as if it was going to tear everything apart, and fiercely grabbed at Chen Zong. At the same time, Chen Zong's feet had already sunk into the light of the secret realm gate. The dragon's claw descended, and with a terrifying force, grabbed at Chen Zong's body. A fierce light flashed in Chen Zong's eyes, and the heavy dragon's sword blasted out, blocking the dragon's claw. His body accelerated, and half of his body entered the light of the secret realm gate. Die! Since he couldn't grab his opponent out, Zhou Yunlong went crazy and directly released his most powerful attack with all his strength. A huge palm print, at least 100 meters in size, fell from the sky, and it was extremely terrifying. The palm print contained roaring thunderbolts, destroying everything. The power of this attack was extremely powerful, and it made Chen Zong feel afraid. However, there was no need to resist, because Chen Zong's body was quickly entering the secret realm gate. When the terrifying palm strike fell, Chen Zong's body also entered the secret realm gate at the same time. With a boom, the giant palm slammed into the gate of the secret plane. The terrifying power did not affect the gate of the secret plane at all. Instead, it shattered and dissipated, turning into a tyrannical aura that rushed out in all directions, crushing everything in its path. Damn it, damn it, damn it! Seeing the light of the secret realm gate quickly dim, Zhou Yunlong was extremely furious, and a powerful aura exploded from his body, rushing in all directions and destroying everything. Chapter 12:21. Outside the flying snow secret land, a group of eliminated disciples had yet to leave. If they were to leave this place with their own strength, it would be impossible for them to return to their respective sections. They could only follow the supreme experts of their respective sections. However, the supreme experts had no plans to leave, as the 36 spots for the Saint opportunity had not been decided yet. Moreover, they would have to continue waiting after it was decided. Since they could not leave, they could only cultivate in this place. The temperature here was very low and there was ice all around. Cultivating in such a place would be very beneficial for one's strength. Apart from cultivating, these people would also discuss with each other. The main topic was still the 36 spots for the Saint opportunity. My 5 Jew heavenly palace will get at least 4 spots, maybe even 5. A disciple of the 5Ju Heavenly Palace said confidently, as if the 5Ju Heavenly Palace had already gotten 4 or even 5 spots. Don't brag too much, a disciple of Tai Yin Mountain sneered. Humph, bragging, you think too much. The disciple of the 5Ju Heavenly Palace sneered with disdain. My 5Ju Heavenly Palace's number 1 senior brother Gu Jianxie is invincible among his peers. He will definitely get a spot. Senior brother Zhou Yunlong is very strong. He will definitely get a spot. The 3rd, 4th and 5th senior brothers are also very strong. They are not much weaker than senior brother Zhou Yunlong. It will not be too difficult for them to get a spot. When the disciple of the 5Ju Heavenly Palace spoke, it was as if he was talking about the world. However, there were also people who sneered. The fight for the saint opportunity also depended on luck. Who do you think will be the first to get a spot? Suddenly, someone spoke and all the discussions stopped. Maybe the first to get a spot did not mean the strongest, but the word first always had an indescribable charm. Firstly, it was always so eye-catching and impressive. Who would be the first to come out would undoubtedly attract a lot of attention, and there were many guesses. After all, there were more than 100 people who entered the Flying Snow Secret Land, and there were only 36 spots. Hence, it was unknown who would get a spot, not to mention who would be the first to come out. In my opinion, senior brother Gu Jianxie will most likely be the first to come out. The disciple of the 5Ju Heavenly Palace spoke again. He was still full of confidence. At this moment, there was a buzzing sound, and a burst of light appeared a few hundred meters in front of everyone. The light rippled like water, exuding a quiet coldness as it swayed. What's that? The door to the secret realm? Could it be that someone is coming out? This was the first one, and everyone paid close attention to it. One by one, they stood up and stared with their eyes wide open, as if they wanted to see through the rippling door of light. The light spread out and finally formed a 10-meter-tall door. Under everyone's gaze, a figure gradually appeared in the rippling light and gradually became clear. However, they still couldn't confirm who it was. Suddenly, another buzzing sound rang out, and a second ray of light rippled out like water, and a second door to the secret realm appeared. The 2 secret realm gates appeared only a few breaths apart. However, the speed at which the secret realm gates opened was the same. A difference of a few breaths was a difference of a few breaths. The figure in the first secret realm gate appeared completely. He took a step out of the secret realm gate and landed on the snowy ground. It's him! Chen Shidi. The disciples of White Cloud Mountain were shocked, and then they were overjoyed. Although it wasn't the first place, it was the first to obtain a spot. Naturally, that feeling was incomparably comfortable. How could it be someone from White Cloud Mountain? Impossible, this is impossible. The confident disciple of the 5Ju Heavenly Palace was in disbelief. He held his head with both hands and shouted. At this moment, the second figure appeared. It's senior brother Gu Jianxie. The disciples of the 5Ju Heavenly Palace shouted. The second one to appear was the 5Ju Heavenly Palace's outer sect chief disciple, Gu Jianxie. In the entire Sky Pillar upper region, there were only 3 9-star forces. The 5Ju Heavenly Palace was ranked first, and was recognized as the strongest force in the entire Sky Pillar upper region. Even the Tai Yin Mountain and the mysterious Sky Ancient Palace were slightly inferior. The 5Ju Heavenly Palace's outer sect chief disciple, Gu Jianxie, was also known as the number 1 disciple of the same generation in the Sky Pillar upper region. Of course, this title wasn't very authoritative as it hadn't been verified through actual battles. However, the entire 5Ju Heavenly Palace's outer sect thought so. Gu Jianxie naturally thought so too. Other than the affirmation of his fellow disciples, it was also because of his own confidence in his own strength. As soon as Gu Jianxie appeared, his incomparably sharp gaze swept across like an unsheathed sword, causing everyone's heart to tremble. They were secretly shocked, and did not dare to look at him directly, fearing that their eyes would be pierced. Immediately, Gu Jianxie's gaze fell on Chen Zong's face, and his gaze became even sharper. He knew that this person had left the Flying Snow secret realm earlier than him. Number 1. Gu Jianxie had always been number 1. No matter where it was, he should be number 1 this time as well. He didn't expect that someone else would take the first place. Gu Jianxie's gaze became sharper and sharper. Strands of invisible sword qi shot out from his body, slicing the surrounding ice and shattering it into pieces. The area within a radius of dozens of meters was completely shrouded by the terrifying sharpness, as if it was an invisible sword qi domain. Although the sword qi was invisible, everyone could still see its traces when they looked closely. It was constantly slicing the air within a radius of dozens of meters, like rippling water, extremely terrifying. An even more terrifying light shot out from Gu Jianxie's eyes. It was as if two beams of heaven soared absolute light that could pierce through mountains were aimed at Chen Zong, as if it was going to pierce through Chen Zong's body and shatter it into pieces. Faint sword cries could be heard faintly in the void, causing everyone's expression to change drastically. Cracks spread out in all directions, the longest of which was hundreds of meters long. The astonishing sword qi was so sharp that it made people tremble in fear. Above Gu Jianxie, endless heaven and earth yuan qi gathered, faintly condensing into the illusory image of a giant sword, exuding an extremely terrifying sword pressure. Chen Zong's expression became slightly solemn. Gu Jianxie's qi was so strong, even stronger than the Eastern Fence Green Dragon who had activated his bloodline power. This meant that Gu Jianxie's strength was definitely above the Eastern Fence Green Dragon's. Perhaps Gu Jianxie had already reached the half-saint level. He had not relied on external forces, but his own strength to reach the half-saint level. Of course, Gu Jianxie had not really released his strength, so it was impossible to determine whether his cultivation had reached the half-saint level. Even so, Chen Zong was not afraid at all. If he wanted to fight, then he would fight. He stared straight into Gu Jianxie's eyes without any fear. Their gazes collided like swords that were dozens of meters away from each other. An astonishing aura burst out, and the aura was like invisible fireworks that vibrated in the void. Circles of ripples spread out continuously. Just a confrontation of gazes was already so frightening. How terrifying would it be if they fought? The sword at Gu Jianxie's waist trembled faintly, releasing bursts of sword cries. The cries grew louder and louder, as if they were about to shoot out from the scabbard. A great battle was about to begin. Everyone stared with their eyes wide open, extremely excited. That's enough. Suddenly, a voice sounded from the sky, as if the wind from the 9 heavens had swept down. In an instant, all the sharpness was eliminated. An immortal had made his move. With the intervention of an immortal, the battle between Chen Zong and Gu Jianxie naturally could not happen. Gu Jianxie retracted his gaze, but his expression was still as cold as ever. Chen Zong smiled slightly, walked to where the White Cloud Mountain disciples were, and sat down cross-legged to cultivate. His cultivation had already reached the peak, but he could still continue to comprehend other aspects. Little drops make an ocean, and a good foundation would lead to a breakthrough. This was a step further, and also a way to continuously strengthen his foundation. When he broke through, the improvement would be even more shocking. Time passed slowly, and after a while, the 3rd door to the secret realm appeared. Then, the 4th door appeared. The 5th door. One after another, the doors to the secret realm appeared one after another, and one figure after another became clearer and clearer. The 18th door to the secret realm opened, and a figure walked out. Chen Zong's eyes lit up. It was Yu Nianxin. Now, other than himself, Yu Nianxin from White Cloud Mountain had also obtained a spot to become a saint. Yu Nianxin also saw Chen Zong and smiled sweetly. More and more doors to the secret realm were opened. When the 36th door to the secret realm was opened, it had been 29 days. After one more day, the flying snow secret realm would close by itself. At that time, if they still could not open the door to the secret realm, they would be eliminated. 36 people, and all 36 spots to become a saint had been obtained. In the 5 Extinction Heavenly Palace, a total of 3 disciples obtained spots. They were Gu Jianxie, Xiang Nantian, and Mo Zhongxie, respectively. As for Zhou Yunlong, who was in second place, he stared at Chen Zong with murderous intent and anger. It was because of Chen Zong that he missed the first door to the secret realm. After that, he was very unlucky. Although he found the second door, it was opened by the chief disciple of Tai Yin Mountain. He was not a match for him and missed it again. After that, he had no chance to become a saint. Tai Yin Mountain had a total of 4 people who obtained spots. They were Long Yen, who was in first place, and the other 3 who were in second to fourth place. The mysterious Heaven Ancient Palace had 3 spots. They were the chief disciple of the outer sect, Lu Qinggu, the second place, and the third place. In this way, the 3 9-star forces had taken up 10 spots. Then, the disciples of the 10 8-star forces also obtained spots to become a saint. The 3 great clans had 3 spots each, which made a total of 9 people. White Cloud Mountain did well this time. They also had 3 people who obtained spots. They were Chen Zong, Fu Yunxiao, and Yun Yanxin. As for Gao Hongjing and Bai Xia, they did not obtain any spots. The Titan Soul Heavenly Sect also had 3 people who obtained a spot to become a saint. The remaining Big Dipper Overlord Sect, 7 Flames Glazed Palace, Dark Sun Moon Palace, Ethereal Heavenly Palace, and Absolute Refining Sect each obtained 2 spots. In this way there were 35 spots. As for the last spot, it was obtained by a disciple of a 7-star force. His name was Li Mu, a very ordinary name. His previous performance was also quite average. No one had expected him to obtain a spot. Chapter 12:22. The 36 spots for the opportunity to enter the Saint Realm were finally decided. Figures descended from the sky one after another. They were the supreme experts from various forces. The Flying Cloud Sect Master glanced at the disciples of White Cloud Mountain and was quite satisfied. After all, 3 of White Cloud Mountain's disciples had obtained the spots. Such a result was only inferior to Tai Yin Mountain and was on par with 5 Absolute Heavenly Palace and Mysterious Heaven Ancient Palace. "Congratulations on obtaining the spots," a supreme expert said. His voice was powerful and resonant like the sound of a bell. It shook the heavens and the earth, and contained an indescribable rhythm. Obtaining the spots means that you have a chance to break through the barrier to enter the Saint Realm and enter the Lingwu Sacred World. But remember, don't be arrogant and impatient. Obtaining the spots doesn't mean that you'll definitely enter the Saint Realm. Such a voice was like the sound of a bell. It shook everyone's mind and cleared their mind. The joy of obtaining the spots also calmed down. Indeed, obtaining a spot only meant that there was an additional opportunity. There was a slight or even a slight chance of success, and it was not a 100% certainty. Opportunities were auxiliary to cultivators. However, the cultivator had to rely on himself. If he wasn't outstanding enough and worked hard enough, he wouldn't be able to become a supreme expert no matter how good the opportunities were. At most, he would only be an empty shell with a high cultivation base or realm. "Let's cut the crap," another supreme being spoke up. His voice was rather sharp. "All right, everyone who obtained the spots, come out." Immediately, 36 people walked out. "Let's go." With a wave of their sleeves, the supreme experts swept up the 36 people and soared into the air rapidly. The direction they were heading for was actually even further north than the extreme north. Now that the 2 ice mountains were in the extreme north of the snow domain and the end of the sky pillar upper region, Where would they go further north? Chen Zong and the others were very curious. They quickly went further north under the guidance of the supreme experts and looked around. The supreme experts didn't go very fast. Perhaps they wanted to take care of the crowd and let them enjoy the scenery. Land of ice and snow. Everywhere they passed, there was only land of ice and snow. It was as if there was no end to the land of ice and snow. However, there wasn't a single ice mountain in sight. It was as if all the ice mountains and snow beasts had disappeared. Further away was an endless expanse of icy blue that seemed to be fluctuating. This is... After another 10 breaths of time, everyone was shocked when they saw the scene. Ice sea. It was actually a sea of ice, an endless sea of ice. There's an ice sea between the Qingtian domain and the Tianyuan sacred domain. It's called the Sinking Ice Sea. The Flying Cloud Sect Master's voice rang in the ears of Chen Zong, Fu Yunxiao, and Yun Yanxin. Sunken Ice Sea. Chen Zong repeated the name in his mind. He felt that this name seemed to contain an extraordinary meaning. The deep ice sea is extremely vast. Even for me, it would take me a month to cross it. The Cloud Sect Master's words instantly shocked Chen Zong and the others to the extreme. Their heads buzzed as if they were struck by lightning, and it was difficult for them to think. The Cloud Sect Master was one of the 5 supreme powerhouses in White Cloud Mountain. Although they did not know if the Cloud Sect Master's strength was at the peak of the Saint Rudiment stage or had surpassed the Saint Rudiment stage, there was no doubt that his strength was extremely powerful. His speed was also extremely shocking. Even with such speed, it would take him a month to cross the deep ice sea. It was clear that the deep ice sea was very far away. One should know that it only took a few days to travel from White Cloud Mountain to the snow region. The deep ice sea has a restrictive force. It's impossible for an ordinary Saint Rudiment stage to fly in the air here. The Cloud Sect Master said again, even if you can fly in the air, the deeper you go, the colder it gets. It'll greatly affect your body. Feel it for yourself. After saying that, the Cloud Sect Master seemed to have released a trace of protective force. Suddenly, a wisp of coldness from the outside entered and swept past the bodies of Chen Zong and the others. It was merely a sliver of coldness, but the expressions of Chen Zong and the other 2 changed drastically. Their teeth chattered uncontrollably, emitting caw-caw-caw sounds. Their faces quickly turned ashen, and their bodies stiffened as though they were about to be frozen solid. Shake! Chen Zong clenched his fist. His tyrannical blood qi surged, and a blazing force spread throughout his body to resist the coldness. However, this resistance only lasted for a single breath. It was defeated in just a single breath. After 3 breaths, the Cloud Sect Master expelled the coldness. The protective force was sealed again, and the coldness was gone. Only then did Chen Zong and the others recover. They exhaled heavily, and their breaths were like ice shards. Horrifying! The 3 of them were indeed horrified. If it were not for the protection of the Cloud Sect Master's power, the 3 of them would have been frozen into ice sculptures in just 3 breaths. They would then be frozen and fall into the deep ice sea. They might even lose their vitality under this kind of freezing. This kind of coldness was so terrifying that only a Saint Rudiment stage cultivator could resist it. After all, the Transcendent stage was a transition in life, and the Saint Rudiment stage was a second transition. It was a kind of qualitative improvement. Now, could the so-called opportunity to become a saint be in the deep ice sea? Or in the Tianyuan sacred region? They did not know. They could only wait. While the 3 of them were thinking, the Cloud Sect Master's voice sounded again. The opportunity to become a saint is in the deep ice sea. It's under the deep ice sea, the Cloud Sect Master said. What he said shocked Chen Zong and the others again. Under the deep ice sea? If they could not even withstand the coldness above the deep ice sea, wouldn't they be frozen into a popsicle under the deep ice sea? Would they need the Cloud Sect Master's protection to experience the so-called opportunity to become a saint? Many years ago, before the so-called Tianyuan Sacred Region and the four upper regions, a powerful enemy came to the Lingwu Sacred World. Starting from the current Tianyuan Sacred Region, it gradually spread out and affected the entire world, the Cloud Sect Master said again. It seemed like he was telling a secret. Chen Zong and the others quickly held their breaths and listened. As for what kind of powerful enemy it was, the Cloud Sect Master did not say, and the three of them did not ask. At that time, the deep ice sea did not exist. The Cloud Sect Master's words shocked Chen Zong and the others again. If the deep ice sea did not exist, then what caused it to exist now? The enemy was too powerful. They came from the current Tianyuan Sacred Region and spread out in all directions, trying to invade and destroy all the living beings in the Lingwu Sacred World. Naturally, the cultivators in the Lingwu Sacred World rose up and fought back. At that time, a large number of powerful enemies were intercepted here, and a great battle broke out. In that battle, the cultivators were led by the ancient Ice Emperor. He led a group of powerful cultivators to kill the enemy. They fought until the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. In the end, they destroyed all the powerful enemies. However, the cultivators also suffered great losses, and many powerful cultivators died. The Cloud Sect Master's voice became faint, as if he was reliving the fierce battle. It was hard to imagine how fierce and bloody the battle was back then. The ancient Ice Emperor was a supreme saint. The Cloud Sect Master said, among the powerful cultivators he led, there were many who were at the peak of the Saint Rudiment stage, and there were even some who were half a step away from the Supreme Saint realm. Chen Zong and the others were even more shocked. The deep ice sea was formed after that battle. The land there was also gradually changed into the snow region because of the impact. Chen Zong and the others were a little numb. Changing the weather. How terrifying was that? It was unimaginable. In the ancient battle, the ancient Ice Emperor's attack was left in the deepest part, which is the bottom of the deep ice sea today. It formed a space of its own. We call it the Ice Emperor's secret realm. The Ice Emperor's secret realm left traces of the great battle, and many powerful cultivators' inheritances were left in it. After countless years of evolution, many rare treasures have grown. It will be easier to break through to the Saint Rudiment stage if you enter and harvest them. This is why it is called the Saint Realm's opportunity. After listening to the Cloud Sect Master's explanation, the three of them finally understood what this so-called opportunity was. The secret realm left behind by the ancient Ice Emperor's attack was formed after many years. In addition, there were also traces left behind from the great battle. Comprehending those traces might be able to comprehend some mysteries that would be of great help in breaking through to the Saint Rudiment stage. Moreover, if they could obtain the treasures or powerhouses' inheritances, it would be even more beneficial. For a moment, the three of them were breathing heavily. Opportunity. It was a great opportunity. Fortunately, they were able to win a spot. If they could enter and come out alive, they would definitely be able to surpass their peers. Of course, their peers referred to those who did not enter. The Ice Emperor's secret realm has its own rules and restrictions. Only those below the Saint Rudiment stage can enter. The Cloud Sect Master's words also let Chen Zong and the others understand why the Ice Emperor's secret realm that could tempt even Saint Rudiment stage only allowed a group of non-Saint stage to enter. If you obtain any treasures that are useless to you, I hope you can contribute them to the sect. Of course, the sect won't treat you unfairly. The temperature in the Ice Emperor's secret realm won't be so low. With your cultivation base, you can definitely withstand it. The Cloud Sect Master's words immediately made the three of them heave a sigh of relief. However, you must also be careful. The Ice Emperor's secret realm contains both amazing opportunities and fatal dangers. You must be careful when you enter and come out alive. His solemn tone made Chen Zong and the others realize that it was not only an opportunity but also a fatal place. The slightest carelessness could lead to death. However, opportunities often coexisted with dangers. After all these years, Chen Zong had long been clear about this. Another thing you must pay attention to is that the Ice Emperor's secret realm opens for about 3 months each time. When the time is up, you will be rejected by the secret realm's power. Also, when the secret realm opened last time, people from Tianyuan sacred region entered. I'm not sure if it will be the same this time, so you must be careful. After flying for about 10 days, the powerhouses stopped one after another. Everyone now had a better understanding of the Ice Emperor's secret realm. Get ready. Open the passage to the Ice Emperor's secret realm, the supreme powerhouse from 5 Extreme Heavenly Palace said in a deep voice. Suddenly, an amazing aura burst out from the powerhouses. It was incomparably mysterious. Various brilliances spread out and filled the surroundings. There seemed to be various mysterious sounds echoing between the heavens and the earth. This kind of mystery was still too profound for everyone present. After all, none of them had reached the Saint Realm yet. Even with Chen Zong's superb perception and soul, he could only sense the mysteries of this technique, but was unable to comprehend anything. This was the gap between their levels. Boom, boom, boom. The powerhouses attacked one after another. Tyrannical attacks fell below. Every attack was incomparably mysterious. Moreover, they cleverly blasted the seawater of the deep ice sea away. A passage continued to extend downwards, like a drill that was constantly drilling down. This drilling lasted for a quarter of an hour. A pitch-black passage continued to extend downward. It was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. The passage was surrounded by various brilliances, isolating the seawater of the deep ice sea. All of you, go down immediately. Chapter 12:23. The deep ice sea was boundless. The icy blue seawater seemed to have solidified, and there were no waves. Pieces of ice of various sizes floated on the surface of the sea, and a shocking chill spread out and filled the surroundings. The passage with a diameter of 10 meters kept extending to the bottom of the ice sea. Many figures were enveloped by a powerful force and fell rapidly like meteors. With the protection of the flying cloud sect master's power, even the slightest bit of chill couldn't affect them. Chen Zong observed his surroundings with ease. They fell very quickly, but there was no sound of wind. The passage around them was covered by colorful lights. That was the power of the supreme powerhouses, which temporarily isolated the seawater of the deep ice sea. The power of the deep ice sea was extremely powerful. If it was just one person, it would be impossible to break open such a passage. Many people had to work together to open and stabilize it. Falling, falling, falling. Everyone kept falling. Chen Zong silently calculated the distance. The deeper they went, the only thing they saw was darkness. It was so deep that it seemed bottomless, except for the colorful lights around the passage. It's about 10,000 feet now, Chen Zong said to himself. 10,000 feet was not the end. How deep was the deep ice sea? They kept going down. 11,000 feet. 12,000 feet. Soon, they reached 20,000 feet, but they still couldn't see the end. The darkness became deeper and quieter, making them panic. 2,500 feet. Chen Zong was extremely shocked. 2,700 feet. Everyone saw a ray of light. That light was slightly weak, but it was like a guiding light in the darkness, bringing hope. Everyone couldn't help but feel excited. The Ice Emperor's secret realm. They were about to arrive at the Ice Emperor's secret realm. The Ice Emperor's secret realm was not something the Flying Snow secret realm could compare to. The Flying Snow secret realm was only a semi-natural secret realm. The so-called semi-natural referred to a secret realm that was born with the world, discovered, and transformed into a secret realm. They entered the Flying Snow secret realm purely to fight for a spot, and they didn't get any other benefits. However, the spot was very important. It was related to an opportunity, a great opportunity. The Ice Emperor's secret realm. The Ice Empress' secret realm was not a natural secret realm. Instead, it was created by the ancient Ice Empress, a supreme expert of the Great Saint realm. After experiencing the vicissitudes of time and the cycle of heaven and earth, it gradually formed. In the Ice Emperor's secret realm, there were countless traces left behind by ancient battles, inheritances left behind by fallen ancient experts, and natural treasures. Closer, closer, even closer. The light became even more resplendent and dazzling. The icy blue radiance emitted from within seemed to be filled with traces of coldness. This coldness could not be isolated even by the power of the supreme experts of the various sect forces, because this coldness seemed to fall directly into the hearts of everyone present. Popping sounds could be heard continuously. It was as if they had fallen into water when they came into contact with the icy blue light. The moment Chen Zong's body came into contact with the icy blue light, an indescribable chill invaded his entire body. However, this chill did not freeze him. Instead, it shook his spirit and refreshed his mind, making him feel extremely comfortable. It was like walking through ice water. Falling. The wind whistled in his ears. Only then did Chen Zong feel that the power of the Flying Cloud sect master had disappeared. After entering the Ice Emperor's secret realm, this protective power would disappear. As his body fell, the wind whistled. Chen Zong also quickly sized up his surroundings. The Ice Emperor's secret realm was a space of its own. The sky was icy blue. There were no sun, moon, or stars, but traces of icy blue fog lingered like clouds. The ground below was white in color, and some of it had traces of icy blue luster. There were mountain rocks and icy trees in the distance. Roar! A shocking roar suddenly sounded. It was as if the roar could shatter the heavens and earth. Instantly, everyone's expression changed drastically. Just the aura contained in the roar was very shocking. One could imagine how powerful the owner of the roar was. For a moment, the joy and excitement of entering the Ice Emperor's secret realm disappeared. It was replaced by vigilance. If they encountered the owner of the roar, a life and death battle would be inevitable. Moreover, they could not be sure if the owner of the roar was the strongest existence here. According to what the Flying Cloud sect master and the others said along the way, the Ice Emperor's secret realm had restrictions. Saint Rudiment realm experts could not enter. Otherwise, they would be suppressed to death. In other words, only those below the Saint Rudiment realm could enter. This was the restriction of the Ice Emperor's secret realm. Otherwise, the Ice Emperor's secret realm was formed by the ancient Ice Emperor's attack. If Saint Rudiment realm experts could enter, they would definitely reap great benefits. Falling from a height of several thousand meters, Chen Zong's body was surrounded by a shocking airflow. Traces of heat spread out from his body. It was as if his entire body was about to be ignited. White cloud flight. Immediately, traces of clouds and mist spread out from all directions. However, the speed was very slow. It was 10 times slower than in the outside world. In the outside world, Chen Zong could condense white cloud flight in 1 breath's time. However, in here, he needed 10 breaths of time. Fortunately, it was several thousand meters away, so he would not fall completely in 10 breaths of time. When he was several hundred meters from the ground, the white cloud flight under Chen Zong's feet condensed. His falling body came to a stop and floated in mid-air. Falling from thousands of meters in the air, that kind of rebound force was not easy to bear, because it was hard to tell how hard the ground was. If it was very hard and much harder than the flying snow secret realm, that rebound force might cause him to be severely injured. Each of them used their own methods to reduce the speed of their fall. This way they could reduce the backlash to a certain extent. However, Giant Soul Heavenly Sex Tuoba Nu did not have any intention of reducing his speed. His entire body fell like a meteorite. The friction between his strong and stalwart body and the air caused sparks to burst out from his body. Boom! Tuoba Nu, who was like a meteorite, smashed his feet onto the ground of the Ice Emperor's secret realm. An earth-shattering explosion resounded, and the earth shook. Layers of terrifying ice and snow waves rolled out, reaching a few meters high and submerging Tuoba Nu's body, covering a radius of several dozen meters. Chen Zong and the others' pupils shrank to the size of needles. The impact of falling from a height of several thousand meters only caused a few meters high snow waves that covered an area of several dozen meters. What did this mean? It meant that the ground of the Ice Emperor's secret realm was extremely hard. It was definitely several times harder than the flying snow secret realm. It was hard to imagine how tyrannical the rebounding force from the collision with such a hard ground was. The snow waves calmed down. A figure was half kneeling on one knee with one fist on the ground. Below his leg was a collapsed pit. There were traces of cracks on the sides of the pit. It was Tuoba Nu. A strong bronze aura circled around Tuoba Nu's body. It was as if a bronze flame was burning around him. "Haha, nice." A loud roar came from Tuoba Nu's mouth. It was filled with joy. "Abnormal," someone said in a low voice. "What a terrifying physique." This kind of physique refining. Chen Zong was extremely shocked. Strong. Tuoba Nu's physique was really too strong. It was terrifyingly strong. Chen Zong stared at the bronze aura burning on Tuoba Nu's body. He was a little surprised and doubtful. He could feel a kind of strength and fierceness from it. It was hard to describe. It seemed to be related to physique refining. However, Chen Zong's physique refining cultivation had not reached the peak of the dragon power realm. Moreover, he lacked a complete physique refining inheritance. He did not know much about physique refining. Chen Zong had a feeling that he had not really stimulated the potential of physique refining. Otherwise, he would have been even more powerful when he combined the strength of physique refining and qi refining with the heart-calming sword. Of course, another reason was that there was an imbalance between physique refining and qi refining. If there was a balance, the combined strength would definitely be much more powerful. In other words, if I want to improve my strength, it's a good choice to start with physique refining cultivation. Chen Zong narrowed his eyes and said to himself. Chen Zong had not thought about this before. After all, he did not have much time. Now that he saw Tuoba Nu's strong physique, he had some thoughts. Tuoba Nu stood up and the bronze aura on his body retracted into his body. He moved his muscles and bones slightly, and a series of cracking sounds could be heard. His bones moved up and down like dragons and snakes. It was shocking. "Let's go." Tuoba Nu roared in a low voice. The other two disciples of the Titan Soul sect quickly followed. "Let's go." One by one, they started to leave. "Junior sister Qin Shidi, shall we go together?" Fu Yunxiao asked tentatively. "Okay." Chen Zong and Yun Yanxin did not object. There were opportunities in the Ice Emperor's secret realm, but there were also shocking dangers. There were benefits to going alone, but there were also great risks. They would go together to see the situation in the Ice Emperor's secret realm. They would then decide whether to go alone. Moreover, they would be going together with fellow disciples. Not long after, the 36 people left one after another, each going their own way. Some were in groups of 3, some were in groups of 2, and Tai Yen Mountain was in groups of 4. They walked in the snow without leaving a trace. Chen Zong and the other two chose a direction and went at a moderate speed. If they went too fast, they were worried that they would miss out on some opportunities. After all, this was the Ice Emperor's secret realm. If they were lucky, they might encounter some opportunities. Suddenly, the three of them stopped. They looked around and focused on a piece of ice a few hundred meters away. That piece of ice was like a huge rock, and at the end of it there was a stalk of grass that was 1 foot tall. The stalk of grass was ice blue, and its leaves were like the fingers of a palm. It swayed gently in the cold wind. Traces of extremely pure and cold aura spread out from the stalk of grass. Ice spirit grass. It's helpful for comprehending the transcendent power of ice. If it's supplemented by other spiritual herbs, it'll be even more effective, Fu Yunxiao said immediately. Fu Yunxiao immediately opened his mouth and said, his eyes burning with passion, in addition, the ice spirit grass and ice spirit pill are also beneficial to the cultivation of ice cultivation methods. Senior brother Fu, one of the two transcendent powers you possess is the power of ice, isn't it? Chen Zong asked in return. Yes. Fu Yunxiao nodded. Since that's the case, this ice spirit grass can be given to senior brother Fu to realize its greatest value. Senior sister, what do you think? Chen Zong asked for Yun Yanxin's opinion. I think so too. Yun Yanxin smiled sweetly at Chen Zong. Chapter 12:24. Fu Yunxiao quickly put away the ice spirit grass. He planned to refine it into an ice spirit pill after returning to Mount Baiyun to maximize its effect. Next, the three of them continued to search for spiritual herbs. The ice spirit grass was only one of them. There were many others, but unfortunately, only a small number of them were effective. Most of the spiritual herbs were too weak to be of any use to them. Moreover, most of the spiritual herbs here were of the ice element. Even if they were effective, they would be more effective for Fu Yunxiao. As such, Chen Zong and Yun Yanxin gave them to Fu Yunxiao. After all, these spiritual herbs were not essential to the two of them. Most of them were also not essential to Fu Yunxiao. Only a few of them were useful. The Ice Emperor's secret realm had existed for countless years since the ancient times. The interval between each opening was very long. This interval of time was enough for the Ice Emperor's secret realm to nurture many spiritual herbs and so on. As for the inheritance left behind by the ancient masters, no one had seen it yet. There were some traces left behind by battles, but unfortunately, after the passage of time, those traces had become dilapidated. There was no value in studying them. A 3-meter-tall ice tree stood on the icy ground beside a 2-meter-tall ice rock. Its branches seemed to be made of solid ice. On the sparse branches, there were fruits hanging in 2s and 3s. The fruits were frosty white. They were about the size of a thumb and looked like ice balls. However, the three of them had sharp eyesight and could see that one of the frosty white fruits was nurturing a little red light. The red light was like blood, flickering slightly. Ice blood fruit. Chen Zong recognized the fruit because it was a spiritual herb suitable for refining one's body. In order to improve his cultivation, Chen Zong had naturally studied items related to refining his body. That was why he could recognize it. There were 9 ice blood fruits in total. However, only one of them was ripe. The other 8 were not yet ripe. Unripe ice blood fruits were useless. Consuming them would cause harm. They would freeze the body, damage the blood, and damage the foundation of the body. Ice blood fruit, a body-refining spiritual medicine. I remember that junior brother Chen Zong has a body-refining spiritual medicine. This ice blood fruit should be yours, Fu Yunxiao said. Yun Yanxin naturally did not have any objections. Chen Zong nodded. With a slight shake of his shoulders, his figure flashed like the wind. In the blink of an eye, he crossed over 100 meters and appeared under the ice tree. He grabbed it with one hand. The trajectory of her left hand seemed simple, but it was incomparably profound. It was as if an eagle was soaring through the sky, as if an azure dragon was stretching out its claws, and as if she was picking a flower with her bare hands, she plucked the ripened frost-blood fruit. At the same time, a shocking sense of danger came. Sharp claws scratched out from behind the ice stones, bringing with them countless icy blue sparks. With terrifying sharpness and extreme coldness, they suddenly attacked Chen Zong. It was too fast and too sudden. The claw seemed to tear Chen Zong's body into pieces. Be careful, junior brother. Fu Yunxiao and Yun Yanxin's expressions changed at the same time. They reacted extremely quickly and immediately flew out. The blade light and the sword shadow pierced through the air. Chen Zong's expression changed slightly. At such a close distance, he actually did not notice it until the moment the opponent attacked. This enemy was undoubtedly terrifying. Chen Zong was not afraid in the face of danger. He flicked the heavy dragon's sword out of its sheath in an instant. Like a stream of light, it shot out toward the ice claw that was full of killing intent. The heavy dragon's sword and the ice claw collided. The ice claw paused for a moment, and the heavy dragon's sword bounced back. Chen Zong's right hand clenched, and in an instant, an extremely shocking power burst out. Like a landslide or a tsunami, he raised the sword and chopped it down. With a boom, the heavy dragon's sword and the ice claw collided, and an extremely terrifying power burst out. Immediately, the ice stones were bombarded into ice chips, and the ice tree next to them was even more shocking. It only swayed and was not damaged at all. In the outside world, the power of this level of collision was enough to destroy everything within a radius of several hundred meters. However, in this place the damage caused was very limited. Chen Zong only felt an extremely terrifying power rushing toward him. It was very powerful, and contained an indescribable brutality and coldness. In the coldness, there was also a terrifying evil spirit that rushed into his mind and shook his mind. Brute force. Ice cold. Evil spirit. This blow contained 3 kinds of power. It was completely unexpected, and it made Chen Zong slide back. However, Chen Zong's physique was strong, his qi and blood were vigorous, and he was also protected by the purple cloud black star flame. Therefore, the brute force and coldness could not cause real harm to Chen Zong. As for the evil spirit that attacked his sea of consciousness, although it was very strong, Chen Zong's liquefied soul had transformed, and his willpower was even more tenacious. Moreover, he had experienced countless battles in the Kanglan world, and no one knew how many demons he had killed with his sword. He had forged an astonishing murderous evil spirit, which directly resisted the impact of the evil spirit. He was not affected at all. At this time, Fu Yunxiao's saber and Yun Yanxin's sword arrived one after another. However, their attacks were blocked and shattered, and a figure appeared in front of the 3 of them. The figure was ice blue all over, and it was at least 3 meters tall. Its appearance was strange, and it looked a bit like a giant wolf walking upright. However, its arms were full of barbs, and its eyes were scarlet red. It was not a fiery red, but a scarlet red like blood, with an astonishing murderous intent and evil spirit. When they saw this figure, Chen Zong and the other 2 knew what it was. The Ice Soul Evil Spirit. The Flying Cloud Sect Master had said before that a group of powerful enemies were all killed here in the ancient war. Most of their flesh and blood, and even their remnant souls and auras, had been eroded by the passage of time, but a small part of them remained. After years of precipitation, they merged with the aura in the Ice Emperor's secret realm, and finally produced an indescribable change, forming a new life form. This life form was the Ice Soul Evil Spirit. In fact, the Ice Soul Evil Spirit did not have much intelligence. It only had the instinct to fight and thirst for blood. Whether it was a sneak attack, a frontal attack, or a joint attack, it was all out of instinct. Moreover, the Ice Soul Evil Spirit was also very good at hiding its aura. Before the Flying Cloud Sect Master said this, Chen Zong and the others had no idea about it, but now they knew. At such a close distance, even with Chen Zong's amazing perception, he could not detect it. At that time, Chen Zong also spread out his soul sense, but he still did not discover the existence of this Ice Soul Evil Spirit. It seemed to have merged with the Ice Stone. The Ice Soul Evil Spirit let out a strange roar, like the roar of a trapped beast, but also like the roar of a devil from hell, which made people shudder. It waved its claws, and a cold light flashed, tearing the sky, sweeping in all directions to grab Chen Zong and the other two. An astonishing chill mixed with a terrible killing intent swept over, making Chen Zong and the other two look serious. The three of them intertwined and immediately surrounded the Ice Soul evil spirit. Kill. 2 swords and 1 saber immediately attacked from 3 directions. This battle immediately made Chen Zong and the other two realize the strength of the Ice Soul evil spirit. The body of the Ice Soul evil spirit was very strong, and its defensive power was amazing. Even the heavy dragon sword could only cause a light wound on its body, and such a light wound could not affect the strength of the Ice Soul evil spirit at all. Moreover, the Ice Soul evil spirit was very powerful and very fast. Each of its attacks carried an astonishing amount of cold air and killing intent. It seemed to be fighting without any order, but it was actually following its own instinctive killing technique. There was no excess in each of its moves, and it was extremely concise. It was completely born to fight and kill. The three of them joined forces to suppress the Ice Soul evil spirit. If they wanted to kill it in a one-on-one situation, they would have to pay a certain price. After a fierce battle, the Ice Soul evil spirit did not gain any advantage. Even if it attacked wildly, it was no match for the joint attack of the three of them. After being killed, the body of the Ice Soul evil spirit began to crack and shatter, turning into fine ice shards that rustled like sand. In the end, it completely disintegrated, leaving nothing behind. In fact, the Ice Soul evil spirit was not only strong and difficult to deal with, it was almost a perfect killing machine. However, the only benefit of fighting it was to sharpen one's spiritual will and fighting skills, and increase one's fighting experience. After killing it, there was nothing to be gained. Chen Zong obtained an ice blood fruit, but he did not eat it immediately. It was not the right time. I didn't expect the Ice Soul evil spirit to be so strong. Fu Yunxiao looked at the pile of ice shards on the ground and sighed with a serious expression. Strong, fast, amazing defense, simple and direct fighting skills, and terrifying killing intent that can attack one's spiritual will. It is indeed a formidable opponent. Chen Zong nodded. Such a strong enemy almost had no weaknesses. The three of them had a deeper understanding of the dangers of the Ice Emperor's secret realm, but this did not affect their determination. The Ice Emperor's secret realm. This was a rare opportunity. 3 months seemed a little long, but in fact, it was not long at all. It would be difficult to gain anything in these 3 months. They could only say that they would do their best. Of course, the most important thing was to survive. They had to ensure that they could survive before they could talk about opportunities. Otherwise, if they died and lost their lives, there would be no need to talk about opportunities or prospects. Everything would vanish like smoke. At this moment, many figures stood in the air somewhere in the Tianyuan sacred region. Below them was an altar. Every figure emanated an astonishing pressure. It was so terrifying that it seemed to be able to suppress an area of space and time. Once it was unleashed, it would cause the sky to collapse and the earth to crack. There were a total of 18 of these figures, who were exuding an incomparably tyrannical aura, gathered in a circle. Their hands quickly formed seals, and various seals flew out from their hand. They collided at the center of the circle, and burst forth with layers of ripples, which quickly spread out. Earth-shattering sounds rang out continuously, as if they could shatter mountains. Space Gate, open! Along with an aged yet extremely powerful roar, the imprint that was ceaselessly condensing at the center of the altar emitted an unparalleled radiance. Buzzing sounds continuously resounded as the radiance shot straight to the center of the altar. After that, a crack was gradually torn open in that area of space. The crack was 3 meters tall and 2 meters wide. It stabilized into a space gate, and the pitch-black light rippled like water. No one knew where it led to. Chapter 12:25. The Ice Emperor's secret realm was a land of ice and snow that stretched for tens of thousands of miles. In a corner of the Ice Emperor's secret realm, an ice soul evil spirit was strolling aimlessly in the ice stone forest. Suddenly, the ice soul evil spirit seemed to have sensed something. Its figure flashed and flew a few hundred meters like an aurora. Its body paused, and a pair of scarlet eyes emitted a cold light. It slowly scanned the area as if it was looking for something. Suddenly, something strange happened. An extremely sharp buzzing sound rang out, and before the ice soul evil spirit could react, it was as if an invisible blade had slashed down, directly splitting the ice soul evil spirit's body into two from head to toe. In the next 1/100th of a breath, the crack quickly spread to the left and right, shattering both sides of the ice soul evil spirit's body. A 3-meter-tall and 2-meter-wide spatial gate appeared. A pitch-black light rippled like water. 3 breaths later, the spatial door stabilized. Immediately, a figure appeared from within the pitch-black water like light. He took a step forward, and a powerful aura spread around his body, surging endlessly. The first gate, the second gate, the third gate. One figure after another quickly walked out of the spatial gate and arrived at the Ice Emperor's secret realm. When the 8th figure walked out of the spatial gate with a terrifying aura, the spatial gate trembled and slowly closed. 3 breaths later, it completely disappeared as if it had never appeared. Each of the 8 figures emitted a shocking aura that spread out in all directions. It caused the surrounding air to tremble and spread out like water ripples. This was merely caused by the aura leaking out from the 8 of them. The aura emitted by the leader was the most tyrannical, occupying almost half of the aura. There were 2 others who were slightly weaker. Although there were differences in strength among the other 5, there was not much difference. Senior brother Yuan, should we work together or? The figure with the weakest aura asked. Let's split up and act separately to maximize our benefit. The leader with the most powerful aura had his hands behind his back as he spoke unhurriedly. His indifferent voice was like that of an almighty god, as if he wanted to dominate everything in the world. Senior brother Yuan, if we split up and meet the geniuses of the Sky Pillar Upper Region. The weakest aura spoke again. Marquis Silverblade, what geniuses are there in the Sky Pillar Upper Region? That's right. Marquis Silverblade, you're boosting their morale and lowering our morale. Marquis Silverblade, I think you're regressing the more you cultivate. The person with the weakest aura was immediately reprimanded by the others, and he couldn't say a word. All right, Marquis Silverblade's concern is reasonable. However, you must remember that there are no geniuses in the Sky Pillar Upper Region in front of us, the monarch, the 2 lords, and the 5 marquises. It was the same last time, and it will be the same this time, said the person with the second aura. Let's go. Don't waste any more time. The person with the 3rd strongest aura also spoke. Then, his body flashed and transformed into a stream of light that flew away. Marquis Silverblade, if you are worried, then follow me. Marquis Golden Spear sneered and transformed into a golden spear beam that tore through the sky. Humph! Marquis Silverblade snorted coldly and chose a different direction from Marquis Golden Spear. He turned into a silver blade light and flew across the sky, disappearing in a short while. The ice stone forest became peaceful again. However, the people of Sky Pillar Upper Region did not know that someone from Tianyuan Sacred Region had already entered the Ice Emperor's secret realm. There's a sword mark here. Chen Zong and the other 2 stopped and stared ahead. There was a 5-meter-tall ice stone. There was a 3-meter-long sword mark on the ice stone that emanated a sharp aura. Chen Shitty, junior sister you, why don't you try comprehending it since you are practicing the sword? Fu Yunxiao said, I will protect you. Chen Zong and Yu Nianxin nodded and walked to the sword mark. They cleared all distracting thoughts and focused their eyes on it. Both of them practiced the sword and had great attainments in the way of the sword. Chen Zong's way of the sword had reached the perfection of the 3rd level, which was even more brilliant. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Chen Zong's breathing gradually calmed down and became extremely long. His entire body seemed to emit a trace of tranquility and emptiness. So fast. Fu Yunxiao was shocked. Chen Zong entered the state of comprehension too quickly. At this moment, Yun Yanxin was still adjusting. Chen Zong, who had entered a state of comprehension, only felt as if an invisible figure had crossed through time and space, slashing through the air with a sharp sword in his hand. The extremely sharp light split the world apart, and the sword tore apart the darkness. It was sharp, incisive, and indestructible. Slash. Chen Zong was not afraid at all. He struck out with his sword. The pitch-black sword light tore through the sky and seemed to merge into the darkness. The two swordsmen of different eras seemed to be fighting across space with the help of this sword mark. You're strong, but I'm not weak either. Yun Yanxin also entered the state of comprehension and fought across space with the ancient swordsman. After an unknown period of time, Chen Zong felt that he was discovering more potential in the third level of the sword manipulation of the heart. Suddenly, the sword light shattered and dissipated in the darkness as if it had used up all its strength. In the next moment, Chen Zong and Yun Yanxin both came to their senses. The extremely threatening aura was also restrained. From the beginning to the end of the comprehension, not much time had passed. It was less than half an hour. However, Chen Zong and Yun Yanxin gained a lot. Chen Zong did not improve at all in the realm of the sword manipulation. After all, he was already at the third level. If he made another breakthrough, he would be at the fourth level. It was not easy to make a breakthrough in such a big realm. Even so, Chen Zong had discovered more potential in the third level of the sword manipulation of the heart. Only by fully discovering its potential could he be qualified to break through to the fourth level. Yun Yanxin's sword manipulation was at the third level. After this comprehension, he was closer to the small success. If he had the chance to comprehend it again, he might be able to break through to the small success. Although this comprehension did not directly increase his strength, his potential was enhanced, and his foundation was more solid. Chen Zong and the other two teamed up and continued to reap benefit. The other sex members in the Sky Pillar Upper Province also did the same. They found spiritual herbs and traces left behind by experts. Naturally, they could not avoid a fierce battle with the Ice Soul evil spirits. Yes, although this Ice Emperor's secret realm is a little dangerous, the benefits are even greater. Haha, as long as I leave this place and cultivate in seclusion for a period of time, my strength will definitely be stronger. Many people were overjoyed after obtaining some benefit. 3 months was too short. Even if they obtained good things, they could not refine and absorb them to strengthen themselves. They could only take them with them first. When they left this place and returned to their sect, they could refine and absorb them in seclusion. It would definitely bring them great benefits. The half-step saint realm. The reason why these geniuses did not strive to break through to the half-step saint realm as soon as possible was because they wanted to further strengthen their foundation. They would only break through to the half-step saint realm when their foundation was strengthened to the extreme. Only then would they be able to soar into the sky. Chen Zong and the other two joined forces and killed the two Ice Soul evil spirits after a fierce battle. Unfortunately, they did not obtain any benefits this time. However, not long after, the three of them discovered another trace. It was a trace left behind by the experts of the ancient war. It was not a sword mark but a saber mark. Naturally, the saber mark was more suitable for Fu Yunxiao to comprehend. Chen Zong and Yun Yanxin stood guard for him. 15 minutes later, the saber mark shattered and Fu Yunxiao woke up from his comprehension. A trace of extremely sharp saber light flashed in his eyes, as if it could cut through the void. It was incomparably frightening. After comprehending for a while, Fu Yunxiao's potential increased even further. Although they encountered many dangers, the three of them still managed to survive with their combined strength. Moreover, they also obtained many benefit. If the three of them had traveled separately, it would have been very difficult for them to pass through such dangers. Time passed by slowly. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed since the group entered the Ice Emperor's secret realm. The Ice Emperor's secret realm was very big. The disciples from the various sects of the Sky Pillar Upper Province did not encounter each other except for traveling together. And in these 5 days, the number of Ice Soul evil spirits that were killed was as high as 100. At the center of the front part of the Ice Emperor's secret realm, there was a 1,000-meter-tall iceberg that was emitting an icy blue brilliance. Suddenly, a series of cracking sounds could be heard as cracks appeared on the 1,000-meter-tall ice mountain. The cracks spread rapidly, and in the next moment, the ice mountain collapsed and shattered. Swish, 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 swish. Figures shot out from the shattered iceberg. Earth-shattering roars accompanied by extremely terrifying killing intent swept out like a hurricane, shattering everything in its path. Ice Soul evil spirits. What appeared after the ice mountain shattered was a large group of Ice Soul evil spirits. There were at least several thousand of them. Every single Ice Soul evil spirit was extremely powerful. It would definitely be a disaster if thousands of them appeared at the same time. The direction in which these thousands of Ice Soul evil spirits were heading was where the 36 people from the Sky Pillar Upper region had entered. In addition, thousands of Ice Soul evil spirits also charged in different directions. They were all charging in the direction of the Ice Stone Forest. That was the direction where the 8 geniuses from the Sky Pillar Upper Province had entered. Chen Zong used his movement technique to fly quickly. Suddenly, he stopped. His eyes shone brightly as he stared ahead. It was as if he wanted to see through everything in front of him. Sensing Chen Zong's action and seeing Chen Zong's solemn expression, Fu Yunxiao and Yun Yanxin quickly stopped as well. "Junior brother, what's wrong?" the two asked in unison. "Danger," Chen Zong said solemnly. Chen Zong's superb senses allowed him to sense a faint trace of danger approaching. Soon, the sense of danger grew stronger and stronger. Danger! Fu Yunxiao and Yun Yanxin's expressions changed slightly. They knew that Chen Zong was very powerful, more powerful than both of them. If even Chen Zong could sense danger, it was definitely a great danger for them too. At this moment, a series of faint rumbles were heard. The rumbles grew louder and louder, causing the ground to shake violently. Tens of thousands of meters in front of them, waves of ice and snow constantly surged over like a tsunami. The extremely cold aura seemed to freeze the world and extinguish all life, immediately causing the expressions of Chen Zong and the other two to change drastically, becoming extremely ugly. "It's the Ice Soul evil spirits. A large number of them," Fu Yunxiao exclaimed in shock. Dozens of them. At least dozens of them were charging toward them. They had all experienced the power of the Ice Soul evil spirit. It was possible to kill them one-on-one, but it was not easy. It would be even more difficult if it was 1-on-2. If it was 1-on-3, they might not be a match for them. But now, dozens of Ice Soul evil spirits were charging toward them. "Retreat!" Fu Yunxiao immediately roared. Chapter 12:26. Rumbling sounds continued as waves of snow surged forward. The speed of the dozens of Ice Soul evil spirits was astonishing. If he retreated, he might not be able to outrun the Ice Soul evil spirit. On top of that, it would weaken his momentum. Once the Ice Soul evil spirits caught up to him, the consequences would be even worse. After all, the three of them were not ordinary cultivators. Even in the face of such a life and death crisis, they did not panic. Instead, they became calmer. The dozens of powerful Ice Soul evil spirits continued to approach. The distance between them was less than 10,000 meters. 10,000 meters was actually very short and could be crossed very quickly. Therefore, if they stayed where they were and summoned the white cloud, according to the rules of the Ice Emperor's secret realm, they would need about 10 breaths. 10 breaths was enough for the Ice Soul evil spirits to reach them. At this moment, retreating first was the right thing to do. While retreating, they tried to maintain the distance between them and the Ice Soul evil spirits while summoning the white cloud. The three of them reacted extremely quickly. Like 3 streams of light, they flew away while condensing the white cloud. If they were in the outside world, they would be able to condense the white cloud in less than 1 breath. But here, the restrictions were great and needed 10 breaths. Clouds swirled around them, gradually gathering and intertwining beneath their feet. The dozens of Ice Soul evil spirits were getting closer and closer. Their extremely terrifying chill and baleful aura poured down like a torrential river, causing the 3 of them to feel numb all over. Just as the dozens of Ice Soul evil spirits were about to reach them, the 3 of them successfully condensed the white cloud and rushed up into the air, quickly distancing themselves from the ground. However, some of the Ice Soul evil spirits reacted extremely quickly. With a sudden leap, the tyrannical power shattered the ice surface. Their terrifying bodies carried an extremely frightening power as they rushed up into the sky. Their sharp claws tore through the sky, and a cold light flashed across the horizon. Kill! The 3 of them immediately rode the white cloud and nimbly dodged in the air. At the same time, they slashed out with their swords and sabers to block the attacks of the Ice Soul evil spirit. Go, go, go! The 3 of them tried their best to rush up into the air. However, the higher they went, the greater the pressure became. When they reached a height of several hundred meters, they could no longer rush up. Any higher, the pressure was too strong and extremely cold, threatening their lives. Dozens of Ice Soul evil spirits raised their heads and roared on the ice surface several hundred meters below. They were extremely angry and bloodthirsty. One after another, the Ice Soul evil spirits burst forth with astonishing power and shot up into the air. They were as fast as meteors, crossing hundreds of meters in the blink of an eye and launching astonishing attacks in midair. However, the distance of several hundred meters was enough for Chunzong and the other 2 to react and avoid the attacks of the Ice Soul evil spirit. Let's go, Chunzong immediately said. If they stayed here, they would be constantly attacked by the Ice Soul evil spirit. If they attracted more Ice Soul evil spirits, it would be even more troublesome. The dozens of Ice Soul evil spirits below were enraged when they saw Chunzong's group of 3 rapidly flying away on the white cloud. Immediately after, the Ice Soul evil spirits prostrated themselves on the ground, arching their shoulders and protruding their shoulder blades. Crack! Crack! The scalp-numbing sounds continued to ring out. The shoulder blades of the Ice Soul evil spirits protruded more and more, expanding and growing continuously. Immediately after, the most violent sounds rang out. The shoulder blades shot out as if they were broken and stretched out in an instant, forming a pair of icy blue ice bone wings. The Ice Soul evil spirits had 2 pairs of bone wings, each of which was formed by 3 2-meter-long curved bone claws. Each bone claw was about the width of a palm. Immediately after, the Ice Soul evil spirits that had activated the ice bone wings burst forth with tyrannical power. They stomped their feet on the ground and once again rose several hundred meters into the air. The Ice Soul evil spirits on their backs shook violently. Ice dots blossomed and dazzling light surged in the sky, causing the Ice Soul evil spirits to shoot toward Chunzong and the other 2 like arrows released from a bow. Flight. The Ice Soul evil spirits could also fly. For a moment, Chunzong and the other 2's expressions changed greatly. If the Ice Soul evil spirits could not fly, the 3 of them could use the white cloud to circle around them and escape from the pursuit of the dozens of Ice Soul evil spirit. However, now that the Ice Soul evil spirits could fly, the 3 of them lost their advantage. Senior brother Fu, senior sister Yu, be careful. If we get separated, remember to survive. Chen Zong took a deep breath and said as he slashed out a powerful sword. The pitch-black sword light tore through the void inch by inch, ruthlessly slashing toward an ice soul evil spirit that was closing in on them. The powerful sword light shattered, and the ice soul evil spirit was also sent flying. However, it did not suffer much damage. After its body paused in midair, it let out an extremely angry roar. The bone wings on its back shook violently, producing a sharp roar that shocked everyone. Then, its body once again turned into a giant crossbow and shot through the air. Fu Yunxiao and Yun Yanxin were also attacked by the ice soul evil spirits. In midair, the three of them could not join forces, especially when there was not only one ice soul evil spirit, but dozens of them. White clouds soaring heaven art! Soaring heaven art! Fu Yunxiao instantly activated the white cloud soaring heaven art, a middle-grade saint-level art. After half a year of hard work, although he still could not reach the 5th level, he had already reached the peak of the 4th level and was more familiar with it. Using it, Fu Yunxiao's strength suddenly increased greatly. Then, using the 7th grade secret art, soaring heaven art, Fu Yunxiao's strength also increased by another level. An extremely powerful force fluctuated in the surroundings. This force originated from the 4th level of the white cloud soaring heaven art. Compared to half a year ago, it was more restrained, proving that Fu Yunxiao's control of this force had improved further. As a result, Fu Yunxiao's burden when using the white cloud soaring heaven art was reduced. Using the peak of the 4th level of the white cloud soaring heaven art and the soaring heaven art that had reached the initial level, Fu Yunxiao's strength reached the peak. The snow-white blade light tore through the sky, integrated with the power of the 9th level of the white cloud and the power of the 9th level of the ice soul evil spirit. The extremely powerful blade light immediately sent the ice soul evil spirit flying, and at the same time, cut off one of its arms. If it was before, Fu Yunxiao's blade would at most leave a shallow blade mark on the ice soul evil spirit's body. It could be seen that after using his full strength, his strength had increased significantly. Among the three of them, Yun Yanxin's basic strength was the weakest. As the sword light burst out, dozens of swords instantly hit an ice soul evil spirit. However, they were unable to cause any damage to the ice soul evil spirit and only pushed it back. At the same time, a terrifying rebounding force made Yun Yanxin fly back, his arm numb. The other ice soul evil spirit drew a mysterious trajectory, raising its sharp claws from the side and behind. Cold light streaked across the sky, carrying an extreme killing intent as it attacked Yun Yanxin. In the next breath, Yun Yanxin's body would be torn apart. At the critical moment, a jet-black sword light pierced through the sky. It was extremely fast, strange, and simple, yet extremely mysterious and difficult to detect. This sword strike was extremely ingenious. It was as if the ice soul evil spirit had rushed forward by itself. It was immediately hit and flew back dozens of meters. The terrifying sword light was shattered, but it also pierced through the ice soul evil spirit's sharp claws, leaving a sword hole. Fu Yunxiao was shocked. Chen Zong's attack power was actually so terrifying. Fu Yunxiao knew that Chen Zong had chosen to cultivate the white cloud soaring sky art. Up until now, Chen Zong had not used the white cloud soaring sky art. This meant that he was still holding back his strength and was not at his strongest state. If one's strength was divided into two parts, the first part would be his normal strength, which could be considered as his basic strength. The second part would be his strength when he used powerful cultivation methods, secret methods, and other external forces, which could be called his explosive strength. Then, Fu Yunxiao was now using about 50% of his explosive strength. The remaining 50% was naturally the seal on the Hanyun Snow Shining Blade. Once the seal was unsealed, it would have the strength of a half-saint. "Thank you, junior brother," Yun Yanxin quickly said. She also knew that with her current basic strength, It was still not enough to fight against the Ice Soul evil spirit. She could only use her explosive strength. In an instant, an extremely mysterious aura spread out from Yunyenshin's body. A green light rippled out like water. Yunyenshin's long black hair gently shook, as if it was spreading out in the water. The green light dyed it with layers of halos. Then, Yunyenshin's beautiful eyes were also dyed with traces of green light. The green light was like water and wind, calm and changing. Chernzong and Fu Yunxiao were both shocked. The power of the bloodline. Yunyenshin actually had the power of the bloodline. 7 months ago in the outer sect competition, Yunyenshin did not activate the power of the bloodline. Was she hiding her strength at that time? Or could it be that Yunyenshin's bloodline only awakened in these 7 months? The green light spread out like a burning green flame, but it was not blazing. Instead, it rippled like the wind and the water. It was indescribable. Yunyenshin's aura became stronger and stronger. It had increased by a whole 2 times. Twice? Could it be that senior sister Yu has awakened a high-level bloodline? Chernzong was even more shocked. Only after awakening a high-level bloodline could one's strength increase by 2 times. No matter what, Chernzong was happy for Yunyenshin to have a high-level bloodline. High-level bloodline meant that Yunyenshin's talent had also been greatly enhanced. After awakening her bloodline, her strength would increase by 2 times, making her even stronger. Yunyenshin, who had awakened her high-level bloodline, held her sword in her hand. Her sword aura was extremely violent. Kill. The sword pierced through the air. The sword light was so fast that it was almost indescribable. In an instant, it pierced through the sky and pierced through the body of another Ice Soul evil spirit. The remaining power of the sword light did not dissipate as it attacked the second Ice Soul evil spirit. It was repelled, and a sword hole was left in its body. So strong. Fu Yunxiao's pupils contracted. Yunyenshin, who had awakened her bloodline, was already stronger than him. Unless he unsealed the frost cloud reflecting snow blade. Don't fight! Chernzong said in a low voice, break through with all your strength. After all, there were dozens of Ice Soul evil spirits, and they were very difficult to kill. Even if Chernzong unleashed his full strength and used the red flame sword, he would not be able to kill them in a short time. It would even attract more Ice Soul evil spirit. Therefore, breaking through the encirclement was the best choice. Chernzong had already discovered that these Ice Soul evil spirits could not really fly. They could only fly for a short period of time, and then they had to change their momentum to fly again. Fu Yunxiao and Yunyenshin were also well aware of this. The 3 of them worked together to fight against the encirclement of dozens of Ice Soul evil spirits and forced their way out. However, no matter how good the plan was, it might not be able to keep up with the changes. Chapter 12:27. Boom. That attack glowed with an icy blue light, carrying with it a terrifying baleful aura that tore through the sky and shattered everything. Too fast. Too strong. Too fierce. Chernzong and the other 2 were horrified. Even the other Ice Soul evil spirits retreated in fear. Kill! The 3 of them shouted in unison. Their swords and sabers glowed with a terrifying light, and a terrifying force surrounded them as they slashed down. A pitch-black sword light tore through the sky. It was powerful, heavy, and extremely sharp. The cyan sword light was light and agile, fast as light and terrifyingly sharp. The snow-white saber light was extremely sharp, and a terrifying chill spread in all directions. Frost and snow descended together. The 3 of them attacked with all their might, and it immediately collided with the attack that pierced through the sky below. A terrifying energy fluctuation burst out, and it swept in all directions like a tsunami, crushing everything in its path. In an instant, it swept across a radius of 1,000 meters, and all the Ice Soul evil spirits were pushed back. Chen Zong and the other two were also hit by a powerful force. The force was overbearing to the extreme, as if it wanted to shatter their bodies. It also contained an incomparably terrifying coldness, as if it wanted to freeze the three of them. The baleful intent contained within the force made the three of them feel even more uncomfortable. Fortunately, Chen Zong's physique was strong enough to withstand the impact of this overbearing force. The purplish cloud-black star flame and powerful blood chi in his body also resisted the invasion and freezing of the icy power. As for the baleful aura, it did not affect Chen Zong at all. After Chen Zong's soul liquefied, he had become extremely powerful, and his spiritual will was also extremely tough. After Yun Yanxin activated his high-grade bloodline power, his physique had also been improved to a certain extent, and he had a stronger resistance. A powerful force surged in his body, and he tried his best to resist the invasion of the icy power. In this aspect, he was somewhat inferior to Fu Yunxiao. After all, Fu Yunxiao had comprehended and mastered the 9th level of the power of ice, and his resistance to the cold was stronger. However, in terms of resisting the baleful aura, Yun Yanxin was stronger than Fu Yunxiao because of his bloodline power, so he was barely affected. On the other hand, Fu Yunxiao's mind was in a mess. Fortunately, the combined attack of the three of them was extremely powerful. After shattering the attack, Fu Yunxiao quickly regained his senses. After that, a figure leaped up from below and charged into the sky. It was like an icy flowing light, yet it carried a terrifying killing intent that could slaughter everything. Ice Soul Evil Spirit. It was a 5-meter-tall Ice Soul Evil Spirit, and the aura it exuded had reached the level of a half-saint. Frost Cloud Shining Snow. Unseal. Fu Yunxiao's expression was stern. His left hand was like a knife as it landed on the snow-white blade. His palm was covered in a layer of sparkling and translucent ice as he quickly wiped it across the blade. The blade trembled, as if a layer of dust had been wiped off. It blossomed with an even more shocking sharpness, and a tyrannical power permeated the air. Cold, icy, and sharp. 3 completely different auras intertwined on the blade before finally fusing into one. In an instant, it transformed into a shocking blade light that shot out. In half a year, the Frost Cloud Snow Blade's aura seemed to have become stronger. This was the terrifying thing about natural spiritual weapons. As long as one was willing to cultivate them, they would continue to improve. As for the flowing red flame sword, it was a half-saint weapon, and it would remain so in the future unless it was melted down and fused with better materials. However, it would no longer be the original flowing red flame sword, but a brand new sword. After unsealing the Frost Cloud Snow Blade, Fu Yunxiao's strength suddenly increased greatly, reaching the level of a half-saint. He slashed out with his blade. The snow-white blade light condensed into a solid substance, tearing through the void as it shot toward the 5-meter-tall Ice Soul Evil Spirit. The tyrannical power immediately made the half-saint Ice Soul Evil Spirit pay attention. At the same time, Chen Zong slashed out with his sword. The terrifying sword pressure seemed to be able to shatter everything. It sealed and suppressed the space around the Ice Soul Evil Spirit, and its momentum was so heavy that it shattered the vacuum. Wind Pole. Yun Yanxin's left sword finger brushed across the blade of the sword. A wisp of green light zigzagged like lightning, bursting with astonishing power. The long sword buzzed, as if the power of wind was constantly circling it, making the sword even sharper. The sword pierced through the air, and it seemed as if dozens or even hundreds of swords had gathered into one. It directly left a dazzling green sword mark in the air, straight and horizontal. The ultimate sword, the ultimate wind. The half-saint Ice Soul Evil Spirit roared, and its claws tore through the air. Its claws were incomparably cold, leaving indelible marks in the void. Fu Yunxiao's blade was immediately blocked, but Chen Zong's sword avoided the Ice Soul Evil Spirit's claws. Its momentum was incomparably heavy and powerful, and it bombarded the Ice Soul Evil Spirit's body like a moving mountain. However, the half-saint Ice Soul Evil Spirit's physique was even more amazing. This sword only caused a little damage, which was nothing to worry about. Yunyenshin's wind pole sword was astonishingly fast. It instantly crossed the sky and stabbed the Ice Soul Evil Spirit's body, but only left a sword mark. The heavy dragon sword returned to its scabbard, and a trace of astonishing golden flame swallowed and spat out from Chen Zong's right hand like flowing water. The red flame sword appeared, and the power of a half-saint weapon also spread out. The purple cloud black star flame in his body flowed into the red flame sword under Chen Zong's mind. It burned fiercely, and in the brilliant purple, there was a little bit of black starlight flickering unceasingly. Together with the golden color of the red flame sword, it became even more dazzling and dazzling. With a sword in hand, Chen Zong controlled the sword with his heart. He and the sword became one, and their aura merged into one. Gradually, they climbed to the level of a half-saint. At this time, Chen Zong and Fu Yunxiao both had the strength of a half-saint, and Yun Yenshin's strength had also increased greatly after activating the power of his high-level bloodline. He had barely reached the threshold of a half-saint. The surrounding Ice Soul Evil Spirits rushed to attack again. Chen Zong waved his sword, and the red flame sword's astonishing power burst out. It tore through the sky, and immediately cut an Ice Soul Evil Spirit in half, killing it instantly. The breathtaking sword light was like a volcanic eruption, and also like a falling sun. It blasted towards the half-saint Ice Soul Evil Spirit. This was the main threat. Fu Yunxiao also slashed with his blade. The snow-white blade light was 100 meters long, and like a cold waning moon, it tore through the void and fell from the sky. The brilliance rippled, and the halo was like water, and the chill was like a tide. Even though the half-saint Ice Soul Evil Spirit was powerful, it could not withstand the combined attack of the sword and the saber. It was suddenly bombarded and fell down. Its 5-meter-tall body heavily smashed into the ice, causing waves of ice to surge. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Chen Zong killed 2 more Ice Soul Evil Spirits, and Yun Yenshin and Fu Yunxiao each killed 1. The 3 of them immediately rushed out of the encirclement of the Ice Soul Evil Spirits, and quickly fled. It was not good to fight a protracted battle, so it was better to leave first. With a roar, the 5-meter-tall quasi-holy Ice Soul Evil Spirit suddenly broke out of the ice and rushed out like a meteor. Its claws tore the sky apart, leaving behind several extremely cold claw marks. The void was torn apart as if it was paper. Kill! Chen Zong slashed with his sword, and the sword light fell like a falling sun, shattering the earth. Fu Yunxiao and Yun Yenshin each made their own moves, blocking and killing the other Ice Soul Evil Spirits that were chasing after them. Even so, the pressure on the 3 of them was increasing. Slash. 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 In an instant, Chen Zong unleashed 3 consecutive slashes, all of which landed on the half-saint Ice Soul Evil Spirit. Even though the Ice Soul Evil Spirit was powerful, it could not withstand the power of these 3 slashes, and was once again slashed down. Let's go! Chen Zong shouted in a deep voice as he neutralized the recoil, and casually killed an Ice Soul Evil Spirit with a slash of his sword. At this time, more than a dozen Ice Soul Evil Spirits rushed over from afar. If this continued, it would only be more dangerous. After all, no one knew how many Ice Soul Evil Spirits there were in the Ice Emperor's secret realm, and they were very difficult to kill here. Their strength seemed to be endless, and even if they were injured, they could quickly recover, but cultivators could not. But how could they escape? The 3 of them burst out with their fastest speed, and quickly flew forward, while thinking and looking for an escape route. Go there, Chen Zong immediately said when he saw a dark cave in the distance. Although they did not know what kind of cave it was, they could only take a gamble in the face of more than 100 Ice Soul Evil Spirits. Perhaps they could escape safely, but of course they could also fall into other dangers. Go. At this time, there was no time to think too much, and the best thing to do was to get rid of the Ice Soul evil spirit. The three of them burst out with speed, and rushed over in a flash, like shooting stars across the sky, and fell rapidly. Several Ice Soul evil spirits appeared in front of them, and suddenly jumped up, their sharp claws bringing with them a shocking cold light, piercing through the air. Slash. Chen Zong took the lead, and the flowing red flame sword cut through the void, and the amazing sharpness and power immediately killed several Ice Soul evil spirit. Although the Ice Soul evil spirits were very powerful, if they had not reached the half-saint level, they could not resist the sharpness of a half-saint weapon. Senior Brother Fu, Senior Sister Yu, you go in first. Chen Zong appeared at the entrance of the pitch-black cave with his sword held horizontally in front of him. It was as if he was guarding against the Ice Soul evil spirit. Junior Sister Yu, you go first. Fu Yunxiao instantly stood on the other side of the cave entrance. Among the three of them, Yun Yanxin was the weakest. Yun Yanxin did not hesitate, and immediately rushed into the dark cave entrance, and disappeared as if swallowed by the darkness. A large group of Ice Soul evil spirits rushed over, and Chen Zong and Fu Yunxiao killed them one after another. Immediately, Fu Yunxiao slashed with his sword, and the snow-white sword light rushed out like rolling waves. In a flash, he also entered the dark cave entrance. Chen Zong's expression was cold and solemn, and the flowing red flame sword cut through the sky. Slash. The extremely shocking sword light of the setting sun carried with it a terrible heat that burned the void, and followed Fu Yunxiao's flowing red flame sword to kill the group of Ice Soul evil spirits. After the slash, Chen Zong did not look back. After all, his purpose was not to kill the Ice Soul evil spirits, but to temporarily stop them. In a flash, Chen Zong also rushed into the dark cave entrance, and his body disappeared as if swallowed by the darkness. The Ice Soul evil spirits all rushed to the entrance of the cave, but all of them stopped in their tracks. They only let out angry and bloodthirsty roars at the entrance of the cave, but none of them showed any intention of entering the cave. At this time, a tall figure rushed and knocked away the Ice Soul evil spirits, and arrived at the dark cave entrance. It was the 5-meter-tall Ice Soul evil spirit with the strength of a half-saint. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.